bring to order the Tiverton Town Council meeting of February 22nd. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States
of
of
the United States of America, and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
most.
Madam Clerk, would you like to do the roll call?
Councilor Burk,
Here.
Councilor Janick,
Present.
sorry,
That's okay.
Vieira, Councilor Vieira,
Yeah.
Councilor Cook,
Here.
Councilor Edwards,
Here.
Councilor Perry,
Present.
Councilor deMedeiros,
Here,
all present.
thank you. Consent agenda, approval of Town Council minutes, February 8th, 2021, regular session, February 8th, 2021, executive session, February 13th, 2021, special session, Councilor Perry abstains, absent, February 16th, 2021, special session. Acknowledgement and receipt of minutes from boards, commissions, and committees. Board of Canvassers, 1. Acknowledge receipt of reports, Treasurer Charette, January 2021 budget and revenue report, Jennifer Feliciano, Town Planner and Administrative Officer, reports of activities of Planning Department and Planning Board for January 2021. Acknowledge receipt of correspondence, CRMC, public notice application from Travis Lundgren and Brad Bohinger to construct and maintain a commercial lease site using floating and submerged gear for oysters and scallops. Town of Charleston resolutions in support of 2021-H5113 enact relating to miniature alcohol beverage container deposit recycling. Town of Charleston resolution in support of 2021-85280 and 2021/S10106 enact relating to health and safety, beverage container deposits and recycling act of 2021. City of Central Falls resolution in support of after school and summer programs for Rhode Island's youth. City of Central Falls resolution in support of passage of the Civics Literacy Act HB 5028. City of Central Falls resolution in support of passage of misdemeanor reclassification SB 118 for the protection of immigrant families. E, approval of tax assessor abatement of $21.67. Would any council member like to take anything off the consent agenda? So if no, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Anyone want to make a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Edwards, seconded by Councilor Cook. All those in favor, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Janet,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. I'm hearing that echo again.
I am too. I was just about to say that.
I don't know who's doing that.
It comes and goes.
This time it's a real-time echo though. Before it was a delayed echo, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
This time
you're
it-
right.
very
Well-
delayed.
Yeah, so I don't think somebody has the streaming on in the background. I think it's somebody might have 2 devices on with their microphone.
No, it's not me. Okay, public comments regarding a council agenda item or other town businesses. There's nothing documented. Do we have anything that has come in? Town
No
clerk?
comments.
Okay, thank you. Presentations. Haig Sahadi and Company PC Annual Financial Report year ending June 30th, 2020. The auditors are not able to be present this evening due to a family emergency. I was going to ask to table this until the March 8th meeting, but if anyone has any questions or comments or anything you'd like the auditor to specifically home in on, March 8th. Donna?
Yes, looking through the report, I'm not understanding why, there seems to be, a lot of corrective action for the school department, and I don't understand why there was so out of, I don't know.
Yeah, Donna, I did notice that, but I don't think any of us can answer that. I think we need to ask the auditor that question.
Well, I thought you asked any, to.
Oh,
to,
okay,
like,
yes,
flag something for them. I
okay,
thought,
yes,
am I wrong?
very good, Donna, yes.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? What I've learned over the years, and the treasurer went over it with me, page 23 is the most informational page. So it's all the fund balances. So if you want to look over that for the March 8th meeting, but that's like the key page.
I was just looking at the, blue book,
Oh, all right, I'm looking at the big book.
Oh,
All 177 pages.
Yeah. Well, after all the years, I know which ones to really look at. All right, so I'd like a motion to table this until the March 8th meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All right, motion made by Councilor Edwards, seconded by Councilor Perry, I think. All those in favor, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. I'll be so glad when I don't have to tell you guys you're muted anymore. You don't have to tell me. Might be for a while though. Public hearings advertised. This is from the last meeting we had at Mazzaferro, 59 Nanaquarket Road. Request approval of sound variance for wedding on June 26, 2021, from 4 p.m. to 11 p.m., subject to meeting all legal requirements. Requirements continued from 2/8/21. Update from police and fire related to fireworks. I see that both Chief Reimels and Chief Jones is part of the attendees. Chris, you want to bring them? Okay, Patrick's here.
So Denise, is this a modified request, or did they just add the fireworks regulations to it?
No, if you remember, last time there was, in his request, there was fireworks, but there
Right.
was no fire or police approval or non-approval of it. And it looked like it was, I just wanted to be clear, because in the past, we've been very strict with the fireworks that people have on their property. So I asked both chiefs to look into this and come back to us with a recommendation. Councilor Cook?
I understand that. What I'm not understanding is that a private person can just have as many going off as possible, driving me crazy at any time they feel like it. I know there's supposed to be times they don't put them on. Using fireworks, it's been a nuisance, and yet I don't understand. They don't have to do anything. They can have them go off for hours, but someone wants to have them at a wedding. What's the difference? I don't get it.
The difference is, the fireworks you hear every day is a different kind of fireworks, and that's what I wanted to know. I wanted to know if this was commercial fireworks, and if it is commercial fireworks, it does need a special permit. The ones you hear are different. This is usually done by a company, and it's usually bigger fireworks, like a regular firework display. The ones we hear every night around the 4th of July are different fireworks.
Not just the 4th of July,
Well,
unfortunately.
yeah, all summer long.
Madam President,
Yes, Chief Reimels.
I have, so the fire marshal informed me that he did speak with the applicant. He is not planning on having any fireworks, and he does not know how that got on his application. We don't have to worry about that. That has been resolved.
Yeah, but Bruce, I'm looking at something that I believe he signed. And it says ordinance governing the sales and storage of fireworks. And it's attached to our packet, and it's signed by him that said, I will follow all ordinances governing the use of fireworks. So I think he did have intentions, because why would he have signed that? And the application says live band and fireworks.
Right.
Yeah,
I believe there's 2 attendees in the waiting room ready to speak to that relative to Ed Mazzaferro.
Are there? Because I don't see,
So I
Yeah.
believe Fire Marshal Murphy is in attendance, I believe.
no. Oh, yeah,
He was the one
Daniel.
that
I
actually
see him.
spoke with the applicant, so.
Oh, and then there's a Ryan Mullaney that now has his hand up. And there he is.
Hi, it's Catherine Mazzaferro. I'm Ed's daughter, actually. He couldn't chime in, but I'm the one getting married. So
Oh,
I
hi,
figured-
congratulations.
thank you.
Thank you. It's Ryan here as well. How is everybody doing?
Good.
So we were thinking about doing fireworks. Maybe that's why I got on the application, but since then have decided not to. So maybe that was where the confusion is.
All right, and I don't want you to think you could not have the fireworks. It was just our ordinances. There's special,
Right.
there's
think
special
we-
paperwork that has to be done if you were, and
course.
it wasn't that you couldn't have them. It's just that we wanted to make sure we dotted every I and crossed every T, and made sure you wouldn't have a problem that night.
Of course, and we appreciate that. I think given all the COVID restrictions, fireworks are the least of our concerns. So we're
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
But appreciate you. Thank you for this.
Well, hopefully by June, the COVID restrictions will be a little bit better for you guys.
We hope so. Fingers crossed.
Now, Danny Murphy is here with us. I don't probably think we have any questions for him right now. Welcome, Dan. Well, anyway. All
I'm
right.
here, yes.
So apparently you did speak to them, and they're not going to do this anymore. But thank you for the follow-up, and thank you for going to them and clearing this up. Any other questions? All right, I'd like to entertain a motion.
So Madam moved. President. Joe, can I modify?
Sure.
Because if we approve as is, then we're approving fireworks. So,
Right, I was just gonna say that.
yeah, Mike has a suggestion for us.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, so I just want to make sure it's still down for public hearing on the noise, so you just want to make
Oh,
one call. Yep.
I apologize. So I'd like to open this up to the public hearing. Is there anyone in the attendees that would like to speak? Or anyone that would like to call in, and Chris can give that information? Or I could. If you would like to call in, you can dial the toll-free number 877-853-5247. That'll be audio only. Correct?
So, and you would need meeting number 831-1015-8669 in order to log in by phone. And there is a hand up in the attendee room.
No,
So-
that's
Okay,
Ryan,
Okay.
and he's with us.
And if anybody would like to speak, you can call in by dialing 877-853-5247. And you would need the meeting ID number 831-1015-8669. We'll wait just a few more minutes to see if
Yep.
anyone shows up.
Attorney Marcella?
So I'm sorry, I think Councilor Edwards may have a question, then I'll give my advice as to how to handle this.
Yeah, I just have a general question. Denise, in the, towards the back of this, we have a list of, I guess, the butters.
Yep.
Some are circled, some are crossed. And since we're probably going to see something like this again, what does the circle mean? They've been talked to, or they've
I don't
submitted
know.
a,
I saw that myself. I don't know.
okay.
Joan? You know who circled and crossed out?
Not that it really matters. I'm just curious.
Joan, you're on mute. I don't know if you're trying to answer us.
Trying to get there.
Okay.
I do know in the past that the circled ones mean that the notice went out to those residents. The ones that are not crossed off, that are crossed off, don't need any notification.
Okay.
So it doesn't-
One's the applicant.
Yeah.
Right.
One that's crossed out is the applicant, and the other two are both Fall River. Although there is a circled Fall River too. I
That could
don't
be
know.
vacant lots.
Well, I know why, because if you look at it,
Jimmy
it's,
Karen.
yeah, that's who it is. It's Jimmy Karen. But it's different parcel numbers for him, but it's one
Yeah.
owner.
He has 4 parcels there and they're registered under Tiverton LLC,
Yep.
but it's
Yeah.
because it's the same owner. I think that they only need to send it to the Nantucket address.
All right. So one more time, is there anyone from the audience, from the attendees that would like to speak? There's no new people joining us, I
No,
noticed.
there's no phones, but if again, it's 877-853-5247. And you can, once you dial in, the meeting ID is 831-1015-8669.
We do have a number that's dialed in, but I think it's been there, right, Chris? I'm not sure who that is.
That's, I believe that's Rick Rogers, I think.
Oh, that's right.
No, it's not. It's not even his number.
Oh,
No, they're gone now.
yeah, they're gone.
No, but, okay.
Okay, so yes, Mike.
So, sorry, so my suggestion would be that, given that the applicant was before us and has indicated that they do not intend to have fireworks, even though it was initially on the application, that the motion should reflect that the application for fireworks was withdrawn. The motion should reflect that the motion should reflect that the request for fireworks has been withdrawn, that you approve the request for the sound variance absent fireworks.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to close the public hearing and I'll entertain another motion if Joe wants to do it and just,
I will entertain a motion that we grant the permit for the wedding at 59 Nantucket Road with the exclusion of the fireworks and the granting of the sound barrier.
do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, so
Well, it's not-
made by Councilor Perry, seconded by Councilor Edwards. Any further discussion?
Variance, it sounded like Baron.
Donna,
Donna,
It
do you have any-
sounded like barrier.
No,
Did you
he
say-
said variance.
Because I thought it was a jet hitting the sound barrier here.
No. No, it's sound variance.
Okay,
Okay. All those in favor, Councilor Burke,
yes.
Councilor Cook,
yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes,
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Good luck, folks.
congratulations.
Have a wonderful wedding.
Thanks.
Don't forget our invitation.
Okay, Tiverton Housing Authority, 5-member board, 5-year term, 1 vacancy. Jeannie Mae Durfee, 2411 Main Road, request reappointment to expire 10/15/2025. Is Jeannie Mae in the audience? No.
Don't see her.
All right. Well,
Madam-
I went looking and I don't see any minutes for the Tiverton Housing Authority. I don't think that if according to what I'm looking at, they haven't had a meeting in a couple of years.
So,
And I'm curious well, I don't believe the Tiverton Housing Authority is under our jurisdiction, but I'm concerned that there's no documented meetings. And I also know that they do have to file reports. They do have to request for some help from the state, and I'm not sure how they're doing this. Councilor Burke?
So, Madam President, that's actually one of the reasons I brought up a few weeks ago about having the meeting we're having on Wednesday around Open Meetings Act, because I believe there was a posting for an agenda from last March, maybe February, but I don't remember if there were minutes. I agree that it was one of those that is of concern in that regard. And while I don't know that they manage, well, I know they have a lot of Section 8 and things like that they manage. So I still have to reach out to the chair about my role as liaison with them, and that will be one of the first things that I will be discussing.
No, I did see that agenda, but I'm wondering, because we've gone to Zoom, if there's been a problem. But I'm not sure. And of course, if there is a problem with any of the commissions getting onto Zoom or the committees, Chris is more than helpful with that and can do it. So that shouldn't be a reason not to do it. Chris?
So I want to go back to one of the comments you made during your inquiry, was that the Tiverton Housing Authority, I don't believe, falls under the guidance or the governance of the town of Tiverton. So it may not, while I think that their bylaws may require some input from the town council to assist in providing local leadership as part of their board, that it falls under the jurisdiction of the Federal Housing and Urban Development entity. I know this because there was a complaint that came this past week that it took me a while to resolve regarding somebody losing their Section 8 housing. And I didn't get to resolve it because it's out of our jurisdiction. For the life of me, I couldn't figure out how that fell on the town's lap. And Nancy, who is the director of the Tiverton Housing Authority, her last name escapes me, but it'll probably come to me during this iteration, that he explained to me the entire process on how that entity works and who they're responsible to. And the town of Tiverton actually has no authority other than to assist in providing guidance to their board.
Yeah,
But it doesn't mean whether or not they are required to file open minute or, or access to open documents or open meetings and those kind of things. I just don't know if we have any control over mandating that they do that. Now,
Well, I don't know.
The director again.
Yeah, I don't know if we have any control, but that was my next question to Mike. Wouldn't they have to still follow open meetings?
Yeah, so they fall under open meetings, and we do. I'm sorry, that might go ahead, Mike.
But thank you, Attorney Burke.
Okay, Burke, if you'd like to go in,
No,
go
please
ahead.
do.
You probably could give a more succinct answer than I can. The question is,
We want the one with the legal advice.
Chris is absolutely right. They are an entity unto themselves, but because the board is appointed by the town council, it is a public body as defined by the Open Meetings Act, and they do have to comply with that act. However, it's not the town's responsibility to ensure that they comply with that act. But since you are the appointing authority, and I would assume that you would want your members to follow the OMA. So, but a complaint wouldn't be filed against the town; it would be filed against that body. But I think you do have an obligation as the appointing authority to make sure that those people are appointed are following the law, as at least relates to the open meetings.
Well, I was just curious because we're appointing somebody to a committee, and I couldn't find any record that this committee is functioning. So that's why I was curious.
There's a statute that governs city and town housing authorities. That's at the state level. Basically, gives them gives the town, first of all, the authority to create a housing authority, And then once it's created, then there's a board that's appointed. But once the board is appointed, correct, other than, getting reappointed every 5 years, they answer directly through either Rhode Island Housing or depending on their size, the HUD, the federal HUD at the federal level. So, but, they need to comply with the law, and we can, Mike is certainly within his rights to have a meeting with their chair and say, remind them, and hopefully they'll come to the meeting on Wednesday, so.
Yeah, because we have always had a liaison to them. And I know they've come to us when other things have happened. So I was just curious because if you look, it doesn't look like they're active. I know they're active.
No, they're active.
But you wouldn't know it if you were a private citizen trying to look at what they do. And that was my question.
Okay.
This probably has nothing to do with Jeannie Mae, but I just was curious. So I'd like to entertain a motion.
No, and her application says she said she's been on it for 10 years.
Oh, she has. She's been on it since I've been here. So yes. Councilor Burke?
I only question whether or not we should hold this until the next meeting and ask that either the staff, the exec director or the chair come and talk to us about what they're doing, because this is really our only leverage, I believe.
I think it's Bobby Harris, right, Chris?
Yes, it is. It is.
He's on it as well, yes.
Well,
He's the chair, at least as far as what the records show.
Bobby in the past has always come to meetings when we requested that he does, because he was also been chair of other committees.
Right.
So if we want to hold this and put it on the March 8th meeting, is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, Madam President, I'd make a motion to table this till the March 8th meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. The motion's been made and second. All those in favor, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you.
And I'm a yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not a
All
problem.
right. Well, these squares move and I just get confused. Okay. I think Councilor Janick switched her place and I got confused. All right, so
Been here
General,
the whole time.
on my screen though, you were near Joe. Okay, review of proposal regulation for the planning board, for the planning department related to cistern requirement in new development / town council comment.
So I have Dan Murphy here with us and Jennifer as well, but it is my recommendation that, and after talking to Sue Gill, that this change in their regulations allowing cisterns are fine, and that they put the onus onto a homeowners association instead of the town taking ownership of them. So, and I'll let Dan speak to them if he has any comments he wants to address with it.
And
Yeah, I'm here.
would you like to address this?
No, the only, like the town administrator said, I think between the chief and I, we went through them. And I think the only question we had was, why is the town taking ownership of these cisterns, which would put the burden on us if there was any repairs and stuff like that. So between the chief and I, we went to the planning board and kind of discussed it with them. So that's why we kind of went to the change and spoke to Mr. Carter about why is the town taking ownership. It should be a homeowners association rather than the town. And that's what we're putting forward.
The planner is here.
Yes.
Jennifer, would you like to speak on this?
Sure. Well, it's more the planning board is in charge of their own subdivision regulations. So cisterns are required if a land development doesn't have public water. So I guess they had, in the previous few years, they had changed the cistern requirements. And then speaking to Dan and Chris, Susan really, the chair, developed new regulations, and we're hoping to get your input so that they can go back to the planning board and they can vote on them.
Now, Susan is not one of the attendees, is that correct?
She is not.
Okay.
But I did speak to her and she was supportive of this. They're the ones who actually put it forward, so.
Right, any comments, Counselor Burke?
So Dan and Chris, you had said that the desire is not to put the burden on the town. So then,
The trouble is the planning board has some rules and regulations, and there are times when the town winds up taking ownership of a number of infrastructure issues that come back to bite us pretty hard.
right.
And this
So,
potentially could be one.
but on the last page, it strikes that language. It says repairs to the maintenance of approved tanks will not be the responsibility of the fire department or the town, and that they would be the responsibility of the homeowners. That's why I raised that question.
Right. So, Mr. Councilor Burke, the way the ordinance is written today, that as of it stands today, the town takes ownership of all cisterns once they're approved by the town and the DPW director. We're looking to change that to say that once they're approved by the town, they are the ownership of a homeowners association for any repairs. So that's really I think if Mr. Carter can correct me, I think that's the only change we're looking at.
Correct. Under number 5, you'll see that the language that's stricken out says that the said warranty shall be transferable to the town of Tiverton when the town assumes ownership of the tank. And we're trying to remove that before the town winds up with a obligation to repair and own infrastructure that it really shouldn't. No different than the water authorities who own their own lines, that these developments should own their own infrastructure for water. Now, I would think and I will talk to Sue about this, that to the extent that the town utilizes any water out of those systems, I have no issue with the town replacing the water. I just don't think the town should wind up owning the infrastructure because we don't have the manpower and the wherewithal to maintain these assets.
Right, and I completely agree with that. I'm just stuck on the striking of the very last paragraph on the last page.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same question. Why did we strike that unless you're telling us that in the policy, because we did strike it out everywhere else? Why did we strike that last paragraph on page 3?
It looks like they struck too much of it.
I don't know what they were doing
Hang
there.
on, let me see if I can figure it out.
Well, the part that says all repairs shall be the responsibility of the homeowners association on and on probably should not have been removed. Just the first sentence should have been.
No, the first sentence should remain too, I think, if this is the intent.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm
All
sorry.
right, I would say that should not be stricken.
But why is it?
I don't know. I didn't.
Well, I'm not, yeah, you can't answer it.
No, I didn't prepare this. I did discuss it with Sue, and that was the extent of my conversation, was that the town wouldn't own this anymore. We'll own the ones that are currently, that we've adopted, but we're not gonna go back and force current ones to be under homeowners, because some of them may not have a homeowners association.
So I guess town council comment, if everyone agrees, is
So
why
I
is
would
that?
say your approval would be subject to unstriking that very last paragraph.
Do we have to, it doesn't say we have to approve it. It just said that they want town council comment, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so the planning board approves their own regulations.
Right.
Right.
So
So
I
we can
guess-
work on the language.
Madam Chair, can I step in for a second?
Of course.
If you look at number 11, paragraph 11 says approval upon final installation and approval of the cistern by the town engineer and the fire department, ownership shall be the responsibility of the developer until such time is turned over to the homeowners association described in the final plan decision and or other recorded. So that's why the other part is struck out. It's not necessary, because once it's approved and once it's approved and permitted, it goes to the homeowners association. So the town never sees it. So that's why that language is stricken out.
Okay.
They own it.
Yeah.
Paragraph 11 takes care of
Correct.
of the issue.
And that's okay with you, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way,
Counselor
just
Atwood?
so, and just so you know, I think this planner did indicate, and I applaud the planning department for letting you have comment on regulations. But under the statute, the planning board has the sole authority to adopt their own subdivision regulations. But I do think it's important to have the council weigh in on something that would affect the public health and safety like this would.
Mhm.
So,
Or to the effect that if we're taking on ownership of something, I think that it would be prudent if the
Correct.
planning board runs it by the council first.
Counselor Edwards?
I got two questions. I don't know if they're appropriate for this venue, but I'll ask them anyway. So this goes into great detail about setbacks and the fact that we have to have a cistern and how many are required for how many buildings, on and on. Should it not also define who's responsible for keeping the thing full and how often that will be monitored? And my other question is, how big are these things?
Dan?
Yeah.
They're big.
Normally, they're about 10,000 gallons. So that there's one on Ford Rod Way currently that under the current regulations, I'm almost positive the town owns. It was put in, it's Ford Rod Way off of Lake Road, and it's a 10,000 gallon cistern. That's normally what they are. And I think it's spelled out in that regulation.
Which regulation is that, Dan?
I think it's, I don't have it in front of me, but I think it's the
Current
regulation
planning
that
board
you have.
regulation.
Oh, the current one. So who's responsible for ensuring that it's full?
We are.
Okay.
I guess
so-
initially it would be us, but after that, again, it's not addressed, so I wouldn't know.
Should it not be addressed?
Who else would use this besides us?
It should technically just be us because we're the only ones that would probably maybe us and maybe like Little Compton or another, fire department that if we do mutual aid.
Okay, so if there's a fire and a pumper hooks up to the cistern, fights the fire and goes away, if this is changed, who's going to be responsible to ensure, because I don't think it's going to be this anymore, that water is delivered to refill the tank so it's available for the next fire? Would that be is the fire marshal going to have to check all of these to make sure? Or is he going to receive a report from homeowners association saying, yay, verily, it's been done and this is the level?
Mother Nature.
So to the extent that
Not a good idea.
the homeowners association may not even know that we took the water out of it.
Exactly.
It could be like in the middle of the night. It could be when nobody's. I would think that any incident where the fire department took action during an operational procedure, even if it was for training purposes, that they would have an obligation to replace the water. That, we're taking the water out. We need to create a standing operating procedure in order to ensure that that water gets replaced so it's there for the next time there's a need. So that's something I'll talk to Bruce about and Dan about instituting a policy within the fire department's operations. That should just be standard operating procedure. It should not have anything to do with a policy from the planning board. That just should be our regular operating procedure.
Okay. I just don't want to end up with something that can fall through the cracks and bite us later on.
Usually, from my experience firefighting, while we're fighting the fire, they have tank trucks that would keep shuttling water and probably filling that cistern as they're fighting the fire. So it probably would be filled even after the fire was out.
I'm pretty sure it would be, but we would need some standard operating procedure to make sure that happens.
Counselor Janick?
I need to visualize this. So there's a cistern with this water in it that's at Ford Rod Way. So is that just for that
No.
street?
No, it's open for any fire down there that because the developer had, I want to say, is it 3 or 4 lots? And again, I don't have the zoning in front of me to give you the full description. If they have so many buildable lots, they need to have so many cisterns according to the guidelines right now. And so that cistern is open to any time we have a fire within that area.
So any of those lots that don't have hydrants, which would be that whole major area, correct? Because they have, these are people with, these are people with well water, correct?
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So, so how long does that cistern last? Because Joe's saying they're filling it, pulling from it, filling it. That's, I don't
So
even.
a quick rule of thumb, and I mean, our trucks are about 1,000 to 1,500 gallons per minute. And if there's 10,000 gallons, you're looking at roughly 10 minutes. Granted, we're not flowing 1,000 gallons a minute, but that's what our truck could potentially pull. So maybe 15, 10, 20 minutes
So that's not
of full flow of water.
So that's not really a lot.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, our trucks right now are 1,000 gallons each. So that's 3,000 gallons plus the 10, that's 13. A normal fire is usually we can put up with at least one truck. If we got to go to 2 and go to 3, it's a pretty big fire.
Okay, that helps me. Do we have more than one of these cisterns, and we as a town are responsible for any that are already in place? And
Currently we have one cistern, and that's the one, unless there's some that I don't know about.
So that's the only one we have.
Yep, there's the one cistern on 4 Rodway, and there's also what we call dry hydrants, which is a total different. It's into ponds, and we own 3 of those, and those were put in by the town.
That's what I'm confusing it with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those 3 dry hydrants, one on Crandall, one on Neck, and one on Pond Bridge. The town owns, and the town put those in.
Okay.
Cisterns are buried tanks.
Councilor Burke?
So this might be a silly question, Dan, but not ever having been in the firefighting business. These are watertight, but would they ever, if you never used it, would the water eventually evaporate out of them?
You're going to lose water over time, but no, not usually, because they're buried underground.
Okay. Okay. And my concern about that is if we become responsible for filling them and don't check them, would we be liable if there was a fire?
But the cisterns, now I'm confused. The cisterns, let's forget about the underwater one, the underground one. The cisterns, are they open to the air?
No, it's a buried tank underground.
Okay, gotcha.
Like a big septic tank.
Okay, I gotcha.
That's what I was gonna say.
Concrete.
All
It's
right.
like an underground swimming pool.
Okay. Donna?
All right, I'm looking at number 12, waiver of fire tanks. In lieu of the fire cisterns, a developer may request a waiver from the planning board and Tiverton Fire Department.
So I'll give you an example of that. Let's say down by the Nonquit watershed, where they put in the solar farm at Cook Farm, okay? There's a standpipe on the reservoir there that could sustain water very close to if that was developed. It may not need to have a cistern put in, seeing how there's a standpipe with ample water right there. It would almost be redundant. So there may be a process that we could ask for a waiver, or that the developer could ask for a waiver. They should probably still provide the town with some sort of compensation for other fire apparatus, or other. There may be another way that they can help the town besides putting water where we don't need the water.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Anyone else? Okay, so this is just if we had any comments, and
Correct.
apparently we don't have it out. We agree with this, is that correct?
I think
Yes.
that was consensus.
Okay. So I can move on.
Madam President, are we doing A1 and 2, or was that just A1 we did?
Huh?
Don't
We're
see
on
any-
9.
Right, 9A1 and
9A2.
both together?
I don't have
I don't
2.
have a 2.
I don't have.
Yeah, there is. It's a memo from Dan to Susan with
Oh,
attachments.
is it marked that way on the?
No, it's not marked that way on the agenda, though.
Okay,
The hard copies I have, it's 9A1
Well,
and
now
9.
I know what you're talking about,
Oh,
but
I
I
see it
think,
now too, yeah,
yeah, I think it's all encompassing.
it is.
It's the same.
Well, that's why I want to
subject.
make sure we're acting on both, that's all.
so I think 9A2, so Susan's original memo to
Bruce,
Chris,
Oh.
she says that she asked Jennifer and Rick to review it, and those are Rick and Jennifer's comments, or at least Rick's comments, is what it looks like.
I think she has Dan to weigh in, and these are Dan's.
Well, there's Dan's on top.
oh, what
Okay,
is
I
on
follow you.
page?
I do follow you now.
Okay, so if you follow this, page 1 and 2, and then there's another page 1.
Yes.
What is
And
that?
that page 1 is Dan's memo to Susan.
Okay,
He stated he and the town administrator would like this to go to the solicitor for review. I do not know if they will be submitting this to the council. And then Susan says, I received a voicemail confirmation from Dan that the cistern regulation meets the requirements. He said he wanted this to go before the council and the solicitor, attached as the regulation with all the language. And then the third page of that is a memo from Rick, or an email from Rick to Susan, laying out some suggestions he had, I believe.
yes, yes.
Right.
So I imagine that that's all inclusive in this policy.
So they may not be, but I think they're very similar to what if you had comments
Okay,
that they would like to see your comments so they can incorporate into the final policy.
okay. Okay, any questions regarding that? Okay, then I'll move on.
So I do have one, sorry.
Good.
Rick's last question is, do the planning board or other town regulations describe who is responsible for cisterns if the developer or HOA becomes defunct? It says DPW's understanding is that if the HOA simply fails to timely file with the Secretary of State, it ceases to be an entity. Can the town force individual lots to bear financial responsibility in a practical way?
So isn't it kind of what we're doing now with Winterberry, where we're
Yes.
requiring them to complete their HOA? Otherwise, we'll take away town services. Is that,
Okay.
that's the threat you do. I mean, I don't know how far you can go with that, but I mean, you could not plow their road. You could not pick up their trash. You could do some things that they wouldn't particularly care for. But I think if it's required to have the HOA to start with, that HOA goes with a deed restriction to the property for as long as that property is part of that particular plot.
Yeah, but we can't take away fire services.
I didn't say take away fire service.
No, I know. Nor would we want to.
No, we can't say we're just gonna let your house burn down if you don't.
No, we're not doing that.
Okay,
Not an option.
good, I'm glad. All right, so we can move on?
I believe so.
Okay, is that
Yeah.
okay with? Any, Mike?
So to the extent that any department head, town administrator, or any other council member wants to weigh in, they can do so at the planning board level when they have the final hearing on this.
Thank you. All right, 9B. Councilor Cook, consideration to amend the charter, Article 5, Section 502, Article 9, Section 901, Section 902, and Section 903. And I'm going to let Donna talk about this, but this has been talked about on the council level for a long time. The job description should not be in the charter. And I'm glad that Donna brought this forth. What I would like to say is that at some point, and I'm hoping, we've had so much going on, but I'm hoping in March or the beginning of April, we form a committee to review the charter and come to us with suggestions regarding the FTR. We talked about this on the council previous to this one. And if we do that, I would like Donna's suggestions to be part of that committee. Donna, would you like to speak on this?
Yeah, we've had multiple problems with very good candidates, but maybe for some reason their job specifications that are in the charter, they have different qualifications that'll fit just fine. But the minute you hire them, you're in violation of the charter. I just feel that there needs to be a little more leeway to hire people that are very qualified, but have a different life experience to bring to the table. So I don't think it will, I'm trying to think of why they put it in the charter, and I was thinking that they wanted to have a standard, but it's also creating a problem. The standard itself is creating a problem where you end up in, with a problem that you have a great candidate, but they have something different. It's not that they can't do the job, it's just the qualification is different, and they'd make a great candidate. So we've talked about a lot, and I didn't see anyone putting it on any paper, so I sat down and I just drew it up and put it forward so we could take care of it.
Donna, this is very helpful. Are you okay with me putting this on when the committee we form looks at the FTR? And it's not to get rid of the FTR, but there's been a lot of suggestions regarding the dates when the budget should be in, and whether or not we should have there's other things with the FTR that needs to be tweaking. And so we talked about having a committee look at this. Would you mind if we put this with the committee and we can do this as a package?
Yeah, we might as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I would like to say too is the personnel board, when they look at the charter requirements and they're going through the applications, it gets very strict for them. They get all the applicants who actually has all these requirements, and some of the applicants that they might have liked, but in some instances, they don't even interview them because it doesn't meet the requirement.
Right.
So, and that also becomes very tricky with them also. So taking it out of here will help. And then when we advertise it for a position, then we make the recommendations that we want at that time. Somebody has their hand up. I think it was Chris.
No, I agree with you. I do think that your personnel decisions should not be bound into a governance document. At the end of the day, you are the governance body. That you should, these items may change over time, and to have it into the four corners of a document don't necessarily at times help you to get the right candidate. So I think you as a council have every right to, at the time of a hiring, decide what it is that you'd like to see in your candidates and have some flexibility. Where today, and I agree with Donna, that this kind of ties your hands at times when you may not want it to tie your hands. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. That just means that, you may have a candidate that has better qualifications simply just because they're not the same ones that are in this document. So I do think it's your personnel matters of hiring, and the guidance that you want for that should be delineated in a personnel manual. But when you go out for advertising for whatever it is that you're seeking, that you can incorporate those things that you want at that time. So it gives you much more flexibility. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be rules and regulations on how it is that you hire staff or what those requirements are, that you don't have those abilities. You should. It just shouldn't be memorialized in a governance document that ties your hands.
Okay, so that's I was thinking of putting it on the agenda, probably the first one in April, to form some kind of review committee. And we'll make sure that this is incorporated. Okay. Yes, Donna.
I just have one question. I'm not quite sure what this committee is going to do. It sounds like if you're going to start doing something with the charter, shouldn't it be CRC? I'm not.
No, the town council, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, the town council can put resolutions on the ballot to change the charter. I think, I want to say 3, but maybe 2 a year. It's in the charter. So this would be if the town council wanted to put any extra resolutions on there outside of reviewing the whole charter.
Would it be a resolution or would it be amending the charter? I don't get it.
No,
Can
it
you-
would be, it has to be voted on by the people.
Right.
So
So it would be,
so it'd be a resolution saying, just let's say, we got an EFTR that if there's only one budget, then we don't have to go out for vote. It would be something like that. And then that would change the charter. So it would be something, and that's one of the biggest things that came up last year was the expense of that whole thing. And it was only one budget on there. So that's what Nancy brought to us. And there was a couple of other things. So it would just be, it would be for vote at the FTR where we change, I don't know if it'd be at the FTR or probably be the general election, right?
Supposed to be.
Yeah, I think it would probably be the general election. But Mike's looking. And I knew this answer, but it was many, many months ago, and I'm not as young as I used to be, so I don't remember that answer.
So how the FPR was created was through an ad hoc committee that was appointed by the council.
Yeah,
think
it's
that
an
that's-
ad hoc committee.
Right, so.
And
I think that
we've
that's
done
what-
this before. We've done this before.
Right.
I have the old one, so we've done this before. Mike?
so your charter does have a provision for an election of a 9-member nonpartisan charter review committee it should be elected every 9 years.
Right.
And that's in your charter, that's required, that happens every charter. But under the
For 6 years.
under the Rhode Island Constitution, city and town councils have the authority at any time to propose charter amendments for the voters.
Right.
So you retain that authority. And even those recommendations by the charter committee, those are only recommendations that are made to the town council, and the town council has the ultimate authority to decide whether or not it gets forward to the ballot. The town council is the gatekeeper, basically. And so it would be, I think the charter, I think the Rhode Island Constitution says either by resolution or ordinance. So, so nothing prevents you from appointing a committee to review what you wanted to review, come up with recommendations, and you'd have the ultimate say anyway. You could take those recommendations, not take them, change them, or you could just make the changes at the council level without doing a committee if you want to. But I think you kind of want to have some, I'm sure you want to have some public hearings on it and that kind of thing. So that's why.
Well, I also want people who have worked with this, and I'm hoping to encourage people who have worked with this to be part of the committee and tell us what they felt was a problem.
So the resolution creating this committee, I mean, if you want, we can work on it between now and April. If you're just gonna figure out how many members you want, the appointing authority, the terms, and you want to limit their ability. If you want to limit, you can limit it to things that Donna just said and to look at the FDR. So they come back with very discrete changes without looking at the whole charter, basically. But it's up to you.
Right. Mike, I have a copy of an ad hoc committee that was formed a few years, how they did it, and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And it's very similar to what we want right now.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. All right,
I think
so I
the
don't
town
think
clerk
we,
had an issue. Did town clerk have a question?
oh, Joan?
I was just gonna, since you have that procedure already, I was gonna ask about advertising for committee members. If we'd
Yeah,
have to
I'll show it to you.
advertise. Yep.
Yeah, I'll show it to you.
Let's form the committee first, and then we'll
Right.
figure out how to fill it.
Before Nancy left, I made her find me this. It took a little bit, but I knew we had it. So Nancy spent a day and she found it because I didn't know if we'd find it. So she found it. We went back in time and tried to figure out when it was done. And we actually found it. So I have it.
Okay, great.
And I actually have it on my desk and it says April. So I know that I want that for April. All right, so any other, I don't think we need to do any action on this, if that's okay with Donna, and yeah, I don't think we have to do any action. Am I right, Mike?
Right.
Okay. All right, so we're back to budgets, guys. 9C, budget review and potential votes on town council proposed budget FY22, police, fire, and legal services. we already went through the police with the police chief when he came and presented his budget. Where is Chief Jones?
Coming.
So it's on page 9. Salary, page 9, police department. If we see the bottom line, there is not much of a increase, and I imagine this is all contractual. So we really don't, some of this is.
So everybody's
it's
got the
contractual,
February
there's
17th, right?
There's nothing in there for the IBPO. Because their contract is up the end of this year. So that's something we would have to put in council contingency.
Okay, are we on page 9?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what line are you talking about?
So it would be from salaries captain down to, I believe it's salaries resource officer.
Right. There's,
And then
right,
that would
there's,
also affect some other line items like holiday pay, out of rank pay, overtime, and those things, right, Chief?
right, and we talked about this on Saturday, that because we're well, we haven't started, but we're about to start negotiations, that those are all flat items, but council contingency at this point should have enough. Any questions regarding this? Okay, so I'm trying to see, okay, so we'll vote on that line item of 3,078,547. You see what I'm voting on? Salaries total? Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
Everybody understands what the motion's for. It's for salaries only. I have a motion in a second. Oh, I'm echoing again. Councilor Burke?
Yes.
Councilor Cook?
Yes.
Councilor Edwards?
Yes.
Councilor Vieira?
Yes.
Councilor Perry?
Yes.
Councilor Janick?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Page 10. That's general contractual mandated expenses. Would anyone like to make a comment or a question regarding that? That's pretty much stayed about the same, except that the medical expenses went up, and I believe that was explained to us when we went through the budget.
Madam President, if I could, I know there was some discussion that I made the recommendation under the capital for the telephone was $7,304. And that going back into the state mandated education, there was an $8,000 increase. What I would recommend to you is that we decrease that back to 45,000. So your final number will be 190,300. I was able to purchase the testing for the promotion exams this year. So.
Does
So we
everyone
move back to
understand?
7,000.
What?
So you would move it back to 47,000.
No, state mandated education is 45,000.
That's a $10,000 difference, not an $8,000 difference.
Wait a minute.
Oh, that's true.
It's 10,000.
So it should be 188,300 then, right?
Correct. Yep. My apologies.
So just to recap, we're going to take the state educated mandate and make it 47,
45.
45.
45. We're taking 10 from that.
Correct. And that would bring the number down to 188,300.
188,300.
So, and that was in support of your recommendation to fund the phone system.
Correct.
Patrick, I can always count on you to do some creative adjustments here. At the bitter end.
Usually does.
So what does that come to now? Where was that statement mandated? I can't even find it.
So it's about 3 from the bottom, ma'am. It's account 6928.
It's on page 10.
And it's 3 up from the total.
10.
You see it, Donna?
State educated mandate. Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay.
See, so the 55 is now 45.
45. Okay.
And I want to thank Chris for keeping really good track of this. Because it's been getting confusing. Okay.
So what's the bottom line on that?
188,300.
So just take $10,000 away from the 198.
Okay.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
So the motion is general contractual mandated expenses. We approve 188,300.
300. Correct.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm going to give it to Bill, Deb. So the motion was made by Joe, seconded by Bill. All those in favor, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Thank you, Patrick, for doing that.
That's because you're a true Tivertonian.
He does this every budget season to get his capital. Yeah.
Because he cares about the town.
Yeah, I've been
Because he
waiting
cares
for
about
this.
the town. He grew up here. He cares.
Learn from the
I'm not
best.
saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's a good thing.
It's a great thing.
I know. But
It's a great thing.
All
that's
right,
what's great about hiring people from within.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Operations. So that's not much of an increase. We've already gone through all this. Kind of a silly question, Patrick, but now that we're buying 3 cars, do we still need tires, vehicle parts, and maintenance to go up?
You do.
They
You
all
might get a
have
blow.
tires now, and
Yeah, but you might get a blowout. You never know. A deer might run out in front of you.
Yeah, a deer.
just asking.
Dear.
Why did that number go up? It didn't go up by much. I'm just curious.
Because everything goes up.
Okay.
And also, and to the tires, now we're equipping Dodges and Fords.
Oh,
So I
that's
bought separate tires
okay.
until we can transition the whole fleet over.
So that really is the only increase, except a little bit for gas and oil.
Right.
Okay, any questions? Okay, so I'd like to entertain a motion to approve 245,900 for
So moved.
operations. Joe?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Deb seconded it. All those in favor, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Patrick, anything else you'd like to say about the budget? You want to keep capital as approved?
Yes, so with, how you approved it with the 165 for the 3 cruisers and I would request the 7,304 for the telephone recorder.
Which has already been approved. And just so the people out there know it, Patrick did get us a grant for part of these cars. So I want to thank him for doing that also.
I'm also
It also included the server and RMS redundancy.
That's
So
right.
for 20 grand, that was in the budget as well, on the cap.
That's right.
So I'm
So
also,
that gives the total,
I'm sorry, sir.
total,
Wait a minute, I can't hear anybody.
the grand total is 3,512,747.
447,
747.
isn't it?
Do we
Oh,
need to
okay.
I
vote
took
for
out
that?
10,000.
You're right.
So what is that number?
3,512,747.
Yeah, and I don't think I need to vote for that because we voted on every line item,
No,
so,
you don't. I just want you to know what it was if you want to put it down.
okay.
Good
And
job.
take note that that is not a big increase whatsoever. But also keep in mind that we still have contracts to deal with, so.
Correct.
Yep.
So that will change. All right, thank you very much, Patrick.
Good job, chief.
Thank you, chief.
I'm gonna put you in the attendee room for now.
Not in the corner.
Back to your room.
I
No,
feel
I
like-
don't put it.
I feel like we give them time out when they go over there. I don't know why. All right,
He doesn't want to be on camera all night.
fire department.
So, just for a point of clarity, because I know we're gonna start with the salaries. And I know this is not gonna go over very well from some members of the department, but after speaking with the chief, I would like to pull the deputy chief off of this request until we get into contract negotiations with the fire department somewhere down the road. I do know that there's a lot of requests from the fire department, whether it be the fire truck and these rotating staff. And when you add the deputy to it, it is a big ask of the town council. While I think that both the chief and I could clearly justify having a deputy chief, I do think it's more appropriate probably at the time of resolving the contract when it comes around to deal with it at that point. While this would not be a contractual issue for the deputy, it would be probably taking somebody out of the union, which would be an issue and another big ask, because I'm sure we would have to try to secure somebody's job until pension, that's another, so I have talked to the chief about it. I know he's not happy with me about doing this. And I know some of the staff members may not be as well, but this is a very tight year and the town council has already made some salary and staff adjustments, whether it be in the tax collection office or if we take a look at these rotators. So I would like the council to consider pulling this item from the budget. Now, I'm not saying it's not justified because it clearly is.
I just want to say something, and Joe, I'll let you speak. I was going to suggest this because I was involved with the police negotiations and we talked about his deputy chief. And it was part of the negotiations because of everything that Chris just mentioned. It changes everything in the department. And I think we should wait until negotiations also. And maybe, and I was thinking this year was probably not the time for this, but would be one of our considerations for next year. Or I'm not sure when the negotiations for fire, it starts next year.
It'll come up next year, I believe.
Yes. Councilor Perry?
Yeah, Madam President, I was going to say, I'd like to see the bottom line with the deputy chief in there and then see it without. So
Okay.
I could determine, the increase and if it's feasible.
Yeah, Joe, we just keep in mind, Joe, we have added a few things as we've gone along here. And my opinion is I don't think that this year is the year we should do this, but that's just my opinion.
And I'm not doubting, just to see what the numbers are both ways.
All right, so I'd also we were talking about the rotative firefighters, and Donna, I see you there, and I will let you ask a question. And there was many concerns whether or not this is a negotiable item also. Keep in mind that when we do negotiate this contract, the overtime will change per state. So this was one of the suggestions. Chief Ramos said that he believes we need 4, so he was gradually increasing the staff. Donna had some concerns, and I did talk to our labor attorney regarding this. And he said that this does not have to wait if we felt it didn't, because he does agree that we will have to add more firefighters if we do not want to pay the overtime. So he said that this would be a gradual way to do it, to see how this works out right now, to have 2 extra men. The only thing that I'd like to say is these 2 extra men are going to help with overtime this year, because they're going to be rotators, and they're going to fill in for vacation, LOAs, whatever else comes forward. So, and this is probably not going to go over very well, but if we give these 2 men to the fire department, I would like to decrease the overtime, because I don't think we'll be theoretically, we should not be using this. And it's a way to regulate whether or not this is working for us. Overtime should not increase. Now, of course, with the pandemic and everything, we've had some problems, but hopefully by July, we wouldn't need as much overtime. But I really do think that if we do say yes to this, that we need to decrease the overtime. And I would like to go back to the 150 of 2021. Watch it, and like always, if we need it, it'll be there. We'll have to find it and put it there. But this would be a way to see if these rotators are being used efficiently. And I do think if we agree to do this also, and I've talked to the administrator about this, there has to be some kind of report to us how this is working, what the overtime is looking at, if these rotators are rotating and how it's working. Because if we really do need more help, at least this is a start. This is a start to getting used to using rotators. And Donna asked me to talk to our attorney, and I did. He said if there was any questions, he would come and speak to us if we need to have him speak. But he said that this does not have to be, this does not have to wait until the negotiations. So Donna, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I just also wanted to know the true cost of the 2 rotating firefighters. It says 118, 607, but that does not include the benefits. What is the real cost of the 2 rotators? And is that really gonna, I agree with the decreasing, that's the reason for.
I think Donna froze. Donna froze. She'll come back. Donna, you.
No, she's muted somehow.
No, she's not muted. It's just.
Okay, wait a minute.
Covered in a curse with Cox.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think you better start over.
It froze. Yeah. I agree with the, if we're going to do the rotator, then we do need a report to see how that's working out, because you're supposed to have a report anyway for the overtime, see how that's working out. The decrease makes sense to me, but I don't know if it's low enough considering the amount of money being put out for the 2 rotators, which is more than 118, because the benefits are not included in that. That's just the pay, if I'm correct.
I'm not quite sure it's low enough either. I just threw that out. I think we could go lower also, but I'm not sure what that number should be. Anyone like to comment?
Well, what are we trying to offset as far as not only the pay and the benefits to the cost of the overtime that's supposed to actually lower overtime? What would be a fair number, for a target number for the overtime to bring that down?
Yeah, I'm very hesitant to add 2 extra men and not decrease the overtime, because right now we do not need to do this. And of course, like Bruce brought up last time, this would be a bigger hit if we had to wait till next year. We'd have to add more men. So this is a way to decrease the hurt, I guess.
Yeah, but we
Mike,
don't know what the target is for the overtime to offset the two people being hired to, as they're saying, to decrease overtime.
yeah, and I don't think we really have a definite number. Mike?
So the intent, I thought, was to decrease overtime in the future based on the assumption of what it's going to be with the change in the law. Is that correct, Chief? And do you have any estimate of what that might be?
So, like I said before, if we keep everything the way it is now, there's there's three options on the table for the overtime for the fire department. Specifically speaking about when the legislature takes effect here in town. Obviously, we're grandfathered in right now. The contract is, or because of the contract's already in place, the town's grandfathered in. As soon as the contract expires, which is June of 22, the new law will be put in place. In Tiverton, as far as I understand, I'm pretty sure that Tiverton will be forced to go by it. So the options are, we can stay how we are right now. We can have the eighth man on the shift is the debit guy, the debit firefighter, like I talked about. That person is the extra guy on the shift. He'll cover the first vacancy in the shift for the day. If somebody's out sick or somebody's on vacation or personal day, whatever the vacancy is. So that will keep the shift level at 7, which we have the 7-man minimum. Any vacancies after that, it gets put out to overtime to keep at the 7-man minimum. So that's one option. If we keep that option after the contract expires, that 8th man to keep every firefighter working one extra day, 24-hour shift a month will cost the town, just to keep the way we're going right now, $349,000. That's not including the overtime that's caused throughout the year for any vacancies, whether it be sick, vacation, etc. So that's usually 150, 175 right there. So you're looking at $500,000 right there. We could drop that. So that's one option. The second option is we could not have the guys work the extra 24-hour shift, work 7-man shifts with the 7-man minimum, but anytime anybody's out for any reason whatsoever, it's going to be overtime. And I don't have an estimate for that. It would be astronomical, absolutely astronomical to cover anytime anybody's out for any reason.
I would like to say something though. I understand, I've been involved with fireman negotiations since I got on 8 years ago. And I understand it, and I've seen the rotating shifts, and I know it better than I ever wanted to. But what I'm saying right now is we do not have to add these men now. The overtime is not until the next contract where it's going to really hit us. So what I'm saying is we're adding these 2 men right now just to add these 2 men, so the impact will not be so great a year from now. So because we're adding these 2 men, then the overtime should decrease, because we now have an 8 men and these 2 extra rotators who will cover vacations, absentees, whatever happens. So in reality, you've got 3 extra men on each shift in a way. Not really, because you only have 2 rotators. But there's an extra man on every shift, plus you have these 2 rotators. So what I'm saying is if we allow it this year, we don't have to do this year. But if we do allow it this year, to make it less hurtful, a year from now, then we should decrease overtime because this legislation has not come in yet. So that's what I'm saying. We don't even have to do this right now. There's no necessity to do this right now. If we do this right now, then we need to decrease the overtime. Donna had her hand up and then I'm going to go right around. Donna?
All right, I have to ask about how that's going to work. Are they going to be specifically rotator firefighters, or are we going to run into a problem with seniority and other people wanting the overtime? I'm not sure how that's supposed to work. I also don't know how that's supposed to balance hiring people, $118,000. I'm not sure how much more it would be for benefits to balance off even the $150,000. We're to save some money, we're spending $118,000 or $119,000 plus benefits. I don't know how that's saving any money at this time, and I don't know how it's going to work with staffing. Do they then get bumped off of overtime because someone wants the overtime, or are they just?
There wouldn't be any overtime. No, they would be just a regular rotation. So there wouldn't be overtime if they were filling a slot, right, Bruce?
You don't know how
they would sit down with me.
How is that going to work? And how is that going to work? Are rotators already in the language of the contract?
No.
We not presently. We have had them in the past, though. So the way it will work is that these two rotators would sit down with me on a monthly basis, go over, look ahead a month, figure out where the vacations are, and the vacancies, the known vacancies are, and we would plug them into those positions to stop any overtime that vacancy would create.
So they're not going to be part of the
Wait a minute,
rotation.
Bill. Jay had his hands up next. Jay, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at the expense report for the month of January. 7 months in, that's 58% of the budget. Right now, we're at 80%.
Well, that's because of COVID.
Okay, but
a lot of it.
We're at 80% for overtime. That's using the current system. If we stay with the current system, I think you can pretty much guarantee that this will have a repeat of the same thing.
No, Jay, because I think we're going to get reimbursement for the COVID. I think that was explained to me. COVID has caused a lot of overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to get reimbursed for all of it?
Well, maybe not all of it, but this year is not the year we should be like comparing apples to apples. This is a year that overtime is not going to be accurate because of what's going on. That's what I feel. Bruce?
So like I said, we would sit down on a monthly basis and figure out the upcoming vacancies for the month. Also, if there's somebody going to be out, say on FMLA for 3 months, or, a long-term IOD or illness or anything like that, I could just take one of those rotators and put them right in that position. It wouldn't have to necessarily be every month I sit down with them. I would have the leeway of putting one of those rotators into a long-term position if that position came, if something came up like that. So.
Councilor Vieira?
So these rotators are only going to be part of the 8-man shift or the 8th person maybe a month or two from now. So it's not going, so maybe heavy months of vacation, the summer months. There could be months where the rotators don't work at all.
No. They always work. They're full-time employees.
He's saying that he's going to sit with them and look at next month and see where they could work next month.
Right, because there's always absentees, there's always LOAs, there's always vacation. But no, so say that month, which is a rarity, I believe. Bruce, you can tell me if I'm wrong. That month, if there isn't any holes, then they would be a ninth person on a shift. But
Right.
if there's an absentee, if somebody calls in sick, I would imagine that you would have them available also.
I don't know if somebody calls in sick for a day shift at 6 o'clock, at 6 o'clock in the morning. I don't know if it would be feasible to call them up and say, hey, you have to be at work in an hour.
No, but suppose but if they were the ninth person on the shift because you didn't need them for any openings that month, they would be there for that.
Absolutely. So I don't think Council Vieira, I think what you're saying is, or maybe suggestion, like obviously a lot of vacation is taken in the summer months, spring, summer, fall. I don't think legally I could make them work. Like the president said, they are going to be full-time employees. They have to work the same amount of hours as everybody else. I don't think legally I can make them work all their annual hours, say, in the summer months, or I think as soon as they work over a certain amount in the pay period, it goes to overtime anyway. So they would have to work the same amount of hours in the work period, the 2-week pay period, I think, to not have to pay them the overtime. But yes, I would certainly sit down, and if there was somebody on vacation, next month or something, they would fill in for that vacation.
Okay, so it would probably make it a little bit easier to hire these 2 rotators at that point. My concern was if you were just going to use them as per diem employees.
No.
It may be hard to hire 2 rotators.
Right. No, they would definitely be full-time employees.
Thank you.
All right, the echo is back, so whoever did something, undo it.
I suppose that it would work.
Donna, Councilor Perry had his hand up.
Oh, sorry.
I'll come back to you. Councilor Perry?
I think Deb had her hand up first.
All right, Councilor Janick?
I was just going to make a comment. I think it's a great idea doing these rotating people, and I think that they will be great for planned time off. So your vacations, your LOAs, those kind of things. But to think that we're not going to have overtime, and maybe we don't need as much, and I'm okay with that, but to think that we're not going to have overtime, you're still going to get sick calls that you're not going to be able to cover, because like Chief said, they're going to call at 6 in the morning. It's not realistic that we'd always be able to get somebody in. But as Councilor Edwards was talking about the overtime, it is so unfair to base anything on what it's been like in this COVID year, because it's been such a challenge to staff. And I think those numbers, you have to kind of almost toss them out and look at what you are normally running. But I would support doing this rotating position. I think we do need to cut some of the overtime, but to think that we're not going to have overtime is just not realistic. We will still have some. For more for that unexpected, unplanned time off.
Councilor Perry?
Yes, Madam President. Being a former rotating man years ago, what we did was we took the average work days for the year for the firefighter. So if you worked 120 days a year, we divided that up amongst the rotating man, and we picked out all the vacation days that were known. We plugged the rotating man into those days, and then if he was short, if he only had 100 days and he had 20 left to make the equal, we waited and seen who called out sick, and we plugged it in wherever we could. If not, they went on a shift to be an extra man. That's how we had done it in the past. So I don't know, nowadays they work 4 days on or whatever it is. So you would average out how many days a year one man works. And then you would divide that up amongst these 2 rotating men. That's how we used to do it in the past.
Donna?
Okay, now we decide to go this route, are we going to have Tim write up a side letter for the contract to go by until contract time?
Tim said he did not need to do that. Tim said we do not need to do that or put that in the contract right now. I asked him, I'm sure that Chris can ask him again, but he said we can add men without that being a problem. If we were taking away men, that would be a different story. But we can add them, he said.
The only thing is,
Donna, and we can ask him again.
well, I'm just concerned that there's no clear-cut way how this is supposed to work, and that always then causes grievance problems. I just don't want any grievance problems. They need something to look at and how it's going to be, so that the chief then isn't having problems that spike up and there's nothing written.
So Chris could always talk to Tim and maybe the union, and they can work it out. But Chris can run it by Tim again, because I did. So Chris can, and before this all starts, we can have something. Or Tim may say, we don't
We'll
need.
most certainly work it out with Labor Council, the chief, and probably somebody from the council at the same time.
Yeah, because everyone has a different look at something, and all of a sudden how you thought it was going to be ends up that, you know, the chief has one way of looking at things and the staff is looking at another way. Now all of a sudden you got a problem because nothing's written down. It's up to you. I just think it could cause a
Before we
problem.
would do this, so just for clarity, before we would even do this, to go out and hire additional bodies beyond where the contract is now, we would need to come before the council to seek approval to do that. And I'm sure before you would let us go ahead and do that, whatever requirements that the council would like in place will be well done before we would even be entertaining going out to seek applicants for these positions. So what I'm saying is that basically at this stage, it's conceptual. It will, if approved, there will be far more steps taken to make it so that it's documented what it is that your expectations are, what the
Right.
chief's expectations are, and what Tim's expectations are, and we will try to get that memorialized to everyone's satisfaction before we would hire anybody.
All right, thank
We
you.
wouldn't be able to hire anybody without council's approval to start with, so.
All right, so I would
Just
just like to say that we are adding 2 extra men and it's not necessary right now. That's my opinion. We're doing it because eventually we're going to have to, well, according to Chief Ramos, hire 4, and that was the last presentation. But we don't have to do it this time. So if I was to even vote yes for this, I would say we'd have to decrease the overtime because there's no need for us to do this right now, guys. So we're adding to the budget and it really isn't necessary right now. And I haven't really seen a lot of numbers that tell me that I need 4 when the new contract starts also. So I'm not quite sure if we have enough information to do this, but if we decide to do it, we've got to take from somewhere because we're adding 2 extra men and it's not necessary right now. Councilor Burke? You're on mute, Mike.
Couple of questions, and to get back to one of Donna's original questions, let me ask it a different way. Chris, what's the benefit rate percentage we use to salary?
So I would think that probably for 2 staff, it'd be at least another 55,000.
Okay, that's what I figured.
And that's assuming family plan, and pension and health, and social security.
So the total will be about 75,000, roughly. Okay. Second is, Chief, if we put this in place right away for the full fiscal year, what would you estimate a reduction in this current overtime line would be? Or if we put it in place for only half the year?
If we put it in place for half of the year, it'll be half of what we put it in place for the full year.
No. The overtime. So your overtime line item is 175,000.
Right.
So what do you think the savings would be if you put it in place for the full year or the half year?
I can't predict what the overtime is going to be. The savings for these two, I don't, honestly, I don't have that number right now, but to predict overtime for the year is just, it's beyond my scope of doing this, being in this position for sure. I mean, look at this year, who knows, who would have known, so they will certainly take up some of the overtime, quite a bit of it. In the summer months, in the fall, when there's a lot of overtime, I can almost guarantee you that every shift that they're going to be working is going to be covering an overtime shift. In the slower months, February, March, maybe April, they might be the extra guy. They might be an extra guy on the shift. I think it's almost an impossible question to figure out, but I think for a good part of the year, a lot of their overtime, a lot of their shifts will be covering vacancies, whether it be vacation or, long-term, FMLAs or whatever. To come up with a specific number, I do not have. I apologize.
Right, but covering these vacancies and LOAs and LOAs and sick and will decrease the overtime. I don't know if anyone else in Tiverton can hear what I'm hearing, but there's a really loud noise up this area right now. Like the ground's almost shaking.
What?
Can anyone else hear that?
No.
No.
Sounds like it's coming from the power plant.
Oh, don't say that.
Oh, they could see that.
No, honest, guys, it's coming from, like, I'm looking outside, it's coming from across the pond.
All right, Chief Jones, check it out.
They could be blowing safeties on the boilers.
Yeah, maybe they are, but I've never heard it go on for this long. It's been going on for a real long time. Like my window just shook.
Well, we've got a direct line to the chief, so he's on the phone now.
All right, I'm just asking.
Not to make light of a incident like that at the power plant, but if it does, I'm going to be asking for more overtime.
It's still going on.
So I'm just going to give you some raw numbers just so that you can have something to digest on, because I know that you haven't really got many. But right now, and I know that these savings don't take place until the year later when the contract comes up, but because they work a 48-hour work week, right? There are 28 guys. And they need to get down to 42. That's 6 hours a week per person. That's 8,736 hours a year. Okay, that's one number. You also have a debit guy who takes care of, which is another 8,064 hours a year. That's 16,000 hours of overtime that's being generated that needs to be filled when the law changes for this contract. So we have some big numbers to do. Your standard man who works 42 hours a week generates 2,496 hours. That's a lot of overtime to make up. So this, to me, is a short-sighted to think that, it will generate some overtime savings in next year. It'll be slight. It won't be dollar for dollar, but it will not generate any savings at all for the following year.
Oh, absolutely not. No, absolutely not. But what I'm saying is we're adding 2 men now for no reason.
We're adding 2 men, but that's 2 men is about 5,800 hours. You're going to be looking, if you're including the debit guy, to make up somewhere around 16,000 hours in the following year. So it's a big coming. All I'm telling you is a freight train coming at us.
Right. I know there's a freight train coming at us, but it hasn't even started yet.
No, you're right. It doesn't need to be done next year. All we were trying to do is mitigate the future all coming at one time and trying to get something in place to help with rotating staff in the meantime.
Right, but I'm just saying that I don't know if it's necessary. If it's, I cannot see keeping the overtime what it is and adding 2 men in a budget year that's a little uncertain right now. We don't know what's going to happen. So I'm not quite sure. I'm for doing this now, and when the freight train hits, well, maybe we'll be financially better, or not. But it will be a necessity back then. So, Donna,
Yeah, I'm going to make a motion. Is that okay? Is anyone got any more questions?
Can I?
no, okay, let Donna make her motion. I'll have a second and then we'll have further discussion. Go ahead, Donna.
I'm going to make a motion to accept the fire department with the exception of deputy chief and the 2 rotator firefighters for now.
Do I have a second? I'll second that. Bill Vieira? Councilor
I'm just
Vieira?
going to say that the 2 rotators, it would be a good experiment to see where these 2 rotators factor in realistically and how the 4 would realistically fit in. I'm just saying, I think the 2 would be helpful to see where we stand in regards to hours over the year. So I think it is a good suggestion on my part.
But we're spending $175,000 on this budget, guys. So and that's a lot of money to put on this budget. So if we do that, we need to decrease the overtime.
I would agree with that.
That's my opinion. I don't think we should leave it as such because I can't even justify to the council or the budget committee why I want to do this because it's not necessary right now. Now, if we're doing it and we can decrease the overtime and show and hit the level we want to hit, and if it doesn't work, yes, it'll give us it's a good experiment to see what's going to happen to a year from now. But I can't justify adding this much to a budget when it really isn't a necessity. And this is not a year to not put in necessities. Councilor Perry?
Yes, Madam President, I'd just like to know if anybody can tell me how many fires you're going to have, how many emergencies you're going to have this year. Please let me know because, I'll ask you for the Powerball numbers also. Because there's no way of knowing how much overtime you're going to need for fires and emergencies. They arise at any time, and you have to do what you got to do to protect the citizens of Tiverton. And I think that's what puts the fire chief, police chief, and the DPW director in a unique situation. They have to act, and they can't worry about the money. They have to act as what they can do to protect the citizens of Tiverton.
So I absolutely agree with you, and I'm not saying that they're not going to use overtime. But what I'm saying is if we're going to put 2 men on, we need to decrease the overtime line item because I don't care what anybody tells me. If we have 2 extra men, then the overtime should go down because they're going to be used for the LOAs and they're going to be used for a vacation. So that overtime number will go down. And we'll put it, and I think we should put it down. And if something comes up, we always can add to it. We always can do that. But I can't see adding $178,000 to a very tight budget without taking it from another line item, even a little bit. Anyone else have any questions?
I can agree with you, decrease overtime. All I can say is we just had an anniversary serious event took place in Warwick, and the overtime that situation created, there was no way anybody could predict how much money that was going to cost, and all that takes something like that to happen.
Right, but that's not what I'm saying. I know overtime is necessary, and they've been doing a really good job in keeping it down, but we're adding $178,000 to a budget, guys. We have to get it somewhere.
You could cut some, but I think you just can't predict what overtime's going to be.
Councilor Edwards?
Well, I agree with you, Denise. If the object of hiring 2 rotator firefighters is basically to reduce overtime, that's the only real reason. And overtime has always been a problem in the fire department. And the actual, according to this, in 2019-20 was basically $156,000.
Can I jump in real quick, please? There's a large amount of smoke coming from the power plant right now, so I'm gonna go on that call, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, you should see what's
I
going
can hear
on.
something going on from here now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you
I
guys.
apologize.
Okay, so to continue, and I agree with Denise, if we're going to increase.
Guys, I'm
the
gonna have
step-
to leave for a minute. There's something going on in my neighborhood. I'm gonna have to stop my video.
Okay.
So if we're going to increase the staff to decrease overtime, then it does follow that we need to predict what we think would be an accurate and possible decrease. I would not want to reduce the overtime number to lower than $125,000.
But I think $125,000 is reasonable.
I
We
wouldn't
were
want to
at,
go lower than that.
no, but I think that that's reasonable. We were at 150 and went up to 175. If, we don't want to go up because we're adding 2 positions. So if we cut back from even the 2021 and go to 125, I wouldn't want to go much lower because, best laid plans, you put these people in place and you get sick calls and you get 3 sick calls in one day. Like, that's just the reality of what happens. So you're going to always have that overtime.
God forbid a significant injury.
Right.
All right, so there is a motion on the floor and I seconded it so we could have discussion. That's why I seconded it, to tell you the truth.
Madam President, does anybody have a figure on what we've used so far in overtime for the fire department till now?
Yes. We
Yeah,
just said it, Joe. It's
I can get it for you.
80%
Hang a
already.
second.
It's way up, but that's because of COVID.
We're at
I understand
80%.
We're at what?
Okay.
80% for the year, and we're 58% into the year. So, we're.
What's the dollar amount?
Like 135,
135?
somewhere around there, I believe.
Yeah, hang on a minute.
Yeah, but it would be best to look at 2019.
Yeah, it actually
No,
would.
that I don't
Like, you
have.
can't count this, yeah.
That's fine.
Well, actual for 2019 was 155.18, and we budgeted 174,400.
Right.
Thank you.
And I think that, Mike, that reflected what we asked for 2020, 2021. But
That was 150 is what the request says in the budget.
Yeah.
right. And then what happened was, for some reason, we've increased it by 25,000 this year, which I know we're using a lot of overtime right now, but I don't think we can count that.
I don't think so either.
So
Right
I
now we're-
have a motion on the floor in a second. And Donna wants to basically take out the deputy chief and the rotator firefighters. So we'll vote on that, and if that fails, then we'll go on. If that passes, we'll go on. So, Councilor Burke,
No.
Councilor Edwards,
No.
Councilor Vieira,
No.
Councilor Perry,
No.
Councilor Janick,
No.
and I'm gonna say no, but I'll make a motion if no one else wants to make a motion. Does anyone
Did you ask for
You
Donna?
didn't ask
Oh,
Donna.
Donna, I'm sorry, Donna. Donna,
No.
all right, so do I have another motion?
I'm sorry, I'm so confused.
You
I
want to
want-
say yes?
I want the yes for
Yeah,
what I
okay.
motioned, yes.
Okay,
I'll make a motion, Madam President.
yep,
We reduce the overtime to 125,000. We remove the deputy chief. We retain the rotators.
Second.
and that would make the bottom line,
Hang on, I'll give it to you in a minute. So it's minus 50, minus 78. Correct?
Yes.
Right, and should we be, we keep on, Denise kept on Do we need to put a more realistic figure in here for the rotators?
The benefits come in the other packages.
Yeah, under another package, Jay.
Okay, okay, no problem. So what do we got?
Hang on. 2,525,670.
Okay.
So that's reducing 78,000 and 50,000.
That's my motion.
Is there any further discussion? I have to say, I still hesitate to add 2 men, but it will give us an answer to see how these rotators work and to see if it's efficient when we have to hire more. And I'm not sure, as we're having this discussion, I'm not even sure if we have to do this as rotators next time. I think the whole negotiation might have to change with whether or not
it will.
What different. Yeah, it's going to look totally different. But obviously, we're probably going to have to hire 4 men. They'll be the same cost.
Right. So this gives us some.
Not all at
And
once.
you still get the opportunity to weigh in on this before we do any hiring as well.
Councilor Burke?
Yeah, and I agree, Madam President, with your concern about having 2. At the same time, if we waited for a year and we had to add 4 at one time, that's a $350,000 hit at one time, which is extremely significant. And this may allow us to have some flexibility when we go into the negotiations, so that we can really determine, it gives us the track record for a year or however, whenever we get them hired, and allows us to have a little bit more information as we go in. And because they're not part of the union, we could decide next year that we don't need them. I'm not saying we will, but we could decide that we don't need them.
That
Wait a
we
minute.
all have to, yeah, like if it's not written in the contract, yes, but we'll have to see how that goes.
Right.
Chris is gonna have to talk to Tim further on
We'll
that.
work all that out with Tim.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor in a second. Deb,
Just a quick question. Why would they not be part of the union?
well, they would be part of the union. What Mike meant is they're not in the contract.
Okay.
Okay.
So they
There
wouldn't
would
be
be a side letter probably.
still be
Yep.
union
Okay.
employees.
You're right.
Yeah, I go where you.
Madam
would-
President,
Yes,
from my experience, when I was a rotating man, I was not allowed in the union until I became a permanent firefighter.
well, I think, see, that's what we have to work out here.
Right. But I'm just letting you know, that's what, when I was the rotating firefighter, I could not join the union until I became officially hired permanently. And that was the union's doings, not the town's.
Well, that's what we're gonna have to work out here.
Yep.
Definitely.
That's why I need a side letter.
Okay,
That's true. And if it doesn't work out, you put the 50 grand back in overtime and you just leave that alone. Like, we'll move the money over to council contingency and let it go to the end of the year. But that's, I mean, I hate doing that, but that's,
yeah, I hate doing that.
there is a resolution to this, so it's not all sitting in the fire department.
Well, I hate
And I
doing that
think-
too, because we tax people to put in the general fund.
I know, but
Yeah.
we need to be able to go through this deliberatively.
I think it's important to, again, point out that this is being required in the future, not quite yet,
No, you're right.
but it's a burden because of a change in state law. It's not a burden because of something we all of a sudden decided to do.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor in a second. All those in favor, Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
No.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Perry.
Oh,
What did you say?
no,
Okay,
no.
okay. I couldn't hear you. You went
I couldn't
fuzzy.
either.
Councilor Janick,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. 5-2, motion passes. All right, so Bruce left us. I can tell you, my neighbors all have their lights on. That's why I went outside to see what was going on.
I can hear it over here.
Yeah, well, it stopped, but there's something going on. All right, so operating, what?
One question with all of that. Was that for the 125,000 for OT?
Yes.
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 The no deputy fire chief,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And the 2 rotators would be hired.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so Bruce isn't here, but he's already gone over this with us. Operating expenses. It's an increase with
So
state
the majority of
mandate.
it's an NFAPA apparatus inspections. So that's on his pumps, his brakes, his, trying to think, there was something else that needs to be inspected. I'm trying to see where the rest of it is.
Yeah, I know. The other one is state mandated
about.
EMT training.
Oh, medical physicals, which we instituted as mandatory this year.
Thank you.
So
And
have
then
we
protective,
spent, Jay, while you have the budget open, have we spent any of that money this year?
You mean the expense report?
It's always been a pet peeve for me because even when we mandated it, they never did it.
Hang on a minute. Yeah, because we had big discussions about this on the budget committee. And I finally said, look, why can't you guys make it a requirement of employment that they will get the physicals, because a lot of them just didn't want to do it. And it sounds like Chris said they have done that.
Yeah, and the question that came up, and I don't know if it was at the town council, it might have been at the budget committee meeting, that wouldn't their regular physicals count for this?
no,
And
Right.
we were told they
We were
wouldn't.
told no.
they do not.
Okay, year to date right now, they've spent just shy of $700 on these physicals.
See?
Oh, no, we spent more than that.
Well, that's what I'm looking at
You know
here.
why? Because I used, we did a lot of them in the last budget, that's why. I did them all before,
Well, this is through January, so.
no, but I did them all between May and June, so we will do it again. We will definitely do it again. I know we did a ton of them because, we actually wound up with the family medical leave because of it.
Last budget, we spent just over $10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay.
Yeah, well, 1920, the actual, yeah, like Mike said, was just over 10 grand, so they
Do we really
spent,
need 16,000 in there?
So there's a reason why Bruce increased it, and I don't know what that was. I don't know if, like, one of these things went up dramatically, and I can't remember which one it was, and I want to say it was the medical physicals.
Well, that goes up by $10,000 from current budget.
We, well, it's gonna go up because from the 6 to the at least 10 anyhow, but
Yeah.
I want to say that there's a name of a firm that does this, that their fee increase went from like,
You're right. He said that last time.
yeah, it went up significantly.
Okay, so
And they
there's
have to go twice. They don't go once, they go twice.
so, yeah, I mean, the increase here is like $50,000 from last year.
So, and I do know his telephone bill went up because we did switch them over from analog system to IP telephony like everybody else had. They didn't have any capability of having voicemail or anything like that. Their phones were dropping left and right, and the system was no longer supported. So we did have to get them onto new phones.
Now, the fuel, oil and tires, their actual was 46,000. And we gave them 60 last year, and he's asking for 60 again.
That's probably because I would trying to think what we did. I just think he's going to run out of money on that this year.
Okay,
I think. It's, because he just hit me up with a bill for about $4,000 for one of the pieces.
okay. All right, any other questions?
So let me,
Personal and protective gear.
so that's their turnout gear, their fire, the boots, the hats, when they go into a fire. Again, I'm making sure that they are replacing that equipment because it also gets dated, that it's not good for life, that there's a shelf life of this equipment. And the last thing I want to see is a guy going into a fire that has something that is not within the right dates.
I fully agree with you. Is there like so many hours at the fire, or is it like calendar date?
I believe it's calendar time, and it's time for some of the stuff to get replaced out. It's definitely old. And I know that they've been doing a decent job of trying to get some stuff repaired. No, and replaced, not just repaired, but they can add some, I believe they can, put some protective spray onto it, but it only lasts for so long. And this stuff wears out. It just will not hold the heat away from them. But that spray helps keep the fibers together. It kind of like keep the life of the jackets and the pants, but eventually they break down and wear down.
Yeah. Is that something that we do on a kind of spread it out? So like not.
They do, they spread it out. So this is a recurring expense that needs to happen pretty much annually.
Okay.
They don't replace every year. They'll replace groupings of them every year so that those guys have newer material. So some of the older staff will have their stuff turned out. They don't replace everybody's every year because we just hired a bunch of new guys. We wouldn't be
So their
replacing
stuff will be
them
new,
again.
right? Yeah, that makes sense.
The air packs are part of this, right?
No,
It could be, I think if they have extra money, but I'm not, my understanding is we used to buy the air packs on the Capitol when I did it years
Yes.
ago. I'm
Yes,
not
we
sure
did.
how it's been done of late.
Well, we had a air pack bottle fiasco a couple of years ago.
Yes, do you remember that? And as
Oh,
far
I
as
sure do.
as far as I know, the ear packs are fine. We're doing really good with the ear packs.
We were misinformed.
We're
Years
missing
ago. We were misinformed years ago.
Really?
Yes, we're very misinformed. The ear packs
Yeah.
are fine. It was
Yeah.
it was a
We were
few.
told one day and we found out it was actually 5 years later, but it was just
that didn't percolate into the budget committee. We heard the bad news.
We did, Jay, you're right.
So before we leave all of this, there is some question from Joe Souza in the chat room about the roof. The roof is going on 30 years and is damaged. Am I
Wait a
taking
minute,
comment?
that's capital. That's capital.
And the roof needs changing. So the roof on Lake Road needs changing too as well. So what Lake Road? We don't have a station on Lake.
Talking about the South Station, but
That station.
but
Yeah, he's
that's-
talking about the corner of Lake, corner of East Road and
Okay.
well, that hasn't been brought forward from anybody.
So, but there is some. Sorry, never mind.
No, I don't think there was any roofs.
Disregard my last comment.
Yeah, there was no roofs from the,
So that may be something we put on for next year.
yeah, because no one has that, the fire chief did not bring that up. All right, so I'd like to entertain a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the operations budget for the fire department at $394,200.
Second,
Do you need, never mind.
I have a motion for 394,200. In a second, all those in favor? Counselor Burke,
Yes.
Counselor Cook,
This is for operating expenses?
yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Counselor Edwards,
yes.
Counselor Vieira,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
yes.
Counselor Janick,
yes.
and I'm a yes. All right, I thank Bruce, but he left us. Okay, the next is legal services.
Denise, could I have a minute?
Yeah,
Okay. Lucas chest compression. I know we've
No,
already put
no,
one
no,
into.
we're gonna go back. That's under capital,
Mhm.
and we're not doing capital right now.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
Well, we have 3 fire stations, 3 fire engines. The plan has always been to have at least 3 Lucas chest compressors. I think they should probably have 4. Last year, we budgeted them. We've agreed to 1 for this year. Just to give everybody fair warning, I'm going to try to get another one.
All right, well, I do want to tell you that the Lucas, we do have other chest compression.
Yeah.
They're not Lucas, but
And they cost a lot of money to maintain and keep.
right, but I don't want anybody to think that the fire trucks are not equipped
Okay.
with some kind of chest.
I agree.
The Lucas is a newer model or whatever it is, and they wanted 2. We put 1 in the budget. But we didn't put it, we didn't request it. We're actually taking it out of our capital. So when I was thinking if somebody when we reaffirmed the vote to take out of our capital, if somebody wants to include another Lucas to that, they can. And that's item 9D when we do that. Okay? Okay. Legal services. I'm gonna find the page.
I just level funded everything except for the Labor Council because I knew we had something with the IAFF, I mean, the IBPO coming up. So I don't know what you normally put in for Labor Council when you've had negotiations in the past. But I didn't add any increases on any of the others. I wanted to wait and see how the council felt before, I would increase any of it. That's.
Okay, so if you look at 219, 220.
Yep.
That is when we had a couple of labor negotiations. You see what I'm looking at? And then we decreased it to 35 because we didn't have any. So
Okay.
that's some kind of indicator. I don't know if we went over that, but that's what we did in the past. I mean, I think 50 should be all right and we can take it from.
Okay.
Goes over, we go over.
But that's the only one I touched.
Okay. Mike, you're here. Do you want to say anything? So.
Well, of course, the lawyer always wants to increase their fees.
I know. But you haven't notified us you're gonna, so.
No, I recognize the financial straits that you guys are in, and I think you get a fair. I think my firm provides you guys with a fair rate for the services that we provide. I will say that it's much lower than other communities pay, but I hope you're at least satisfied. I haven't heard any complaints yet, at least from Chris, and
No.
so I would hope that you're just satisfied with the services we provided so far. Oh, Joe's got something. I'm a little scared, but go ahead, Joe.
I'll make a motion. We increase your salary by $1 from last year.
My firm, the misnomer is that this money goes into my pocket. I assure you, it goes right to Los Angeles. So it's
okay.
Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's where his firm is.
God.
It's nationwide, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, so I'd like to entertain a motion for 267,500. Is that what that says? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll make that
So
motion.
moved. Joe, Bill.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Councilor Burke,
Yes.
Councilor Cook,
Yes.
Councilor Edwards,
Yes.
Councilor Vieira,
Yes.
Councilor Janick. She said yes, I read her lips. Councilor Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Now,
Yes.
while we're here, I'm rethinking what I said before. If anybody, if we want to approve another chest compressor, do we want to take it out of the capital restricted, or do we want to include it in our capital request? Because if we want to include it in our capital request, we can vote for it now. So does anyone have any suggestions? Deb?
I think we need to rethink about the fire engine. Not that I don't want the fire engine,
No,
but
no. I'm going to tell you about that next. Yeah, the next budget line, we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
What Jay brought up, that he wants a chest compressor, another chest.
Yeah, and I like that.
All right, so right now, we're voting on this budget and what's going to go into the police for fire request. So what I'm asking is, do we want to add the chest compressor to what we're going to tax? Or do we want to take it out of the capital restricted account that we're going to talk about next? So if we take it out of the capital restricted, how much is the chest compressor?
15,000.
So we're going to add 50. So we'll take 15,000 more out of the restricted fund, which has 525, I think. Or we're going to add 15,000 to our capital request to be taxed. Donna?
I just say we should take it out of the capital reserve fund and just pay for it.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that next. I just didn't want to leave this unless we talked about it. I think that too, but okay, so 9D is we have to vote a formal vote to take it out of our capital. And what Deb was alluding to was what has already been done. If you look at it, Chris and I were talking, and because the fire truck is will be repeated over the next 10 years in this budget, we thought that would be best to clean it up a little, to put the fire truck as what we're asking, the 100,000 we're asking for in our capital request. And what we did was we took 100,000 out of the recycling center, what we requested for, and we put it in our capital request to take out of the restricted account. So all we did was take that 100 and we just moved it around. So 100 will be what we'll put in our budget to request for the fire truck. And then we took 100 out of our request and we put it in what we're going to spend in the capital restricted account for the recycle center. It cleans it up a little. There was a question on whether or not we can do reoccurring payments like this, and is that right? So after Chris and I thought about it, we decided it really doesn't matter. We'll put the fire truck over here and the 100,000 for the recycling center over there. Mike?
So I'm confused. We already took the votes to do what we did.
Well, the problem was, Mike, it wasn't on the agenda to vote to take in the budget meeting to take the money out of the capital reserve. And it was Joan that brought up to just make sure we do it right, that we revote for it formally at a meeting. Councilor Perry?
President, if we're going to do that, I think we should take another 15,000 and put one on the engine. Because if we put them on both rescues and both rescues are out on a call and we call mutual aid and have the engine respond, that engine's going without a defibrillator. And I think that we should have that on all three pieces. If we're going to talk, about safety, I think for the $15,000, we should get two of them. And that way, every piece of apparatus has it on.
We are buying two of them.
No, yeah. Oh, no, we were only buying one. You said.
No, we're buying two. We already bought one before. We already put it in before.
Okay, so we should buy three.
No, I don't think. The request isn't even three. Chief Reimels, are you here? because they do have a compressor, they do have the ability.
He's back.
Bruce, do you need three?
I apologize for that.
Bruce, do you need three chest compressors?
We have, the one that we have now is, if we get to two, one, that's one for either rescue. The old one that we have now would go on engine 3.
Fine, as long as you got one on each piece of equipment.
Okay.
We will have one on each piece of equipment.
Yeah, and we
That's
talked
what I'm
about
concerned
that
about.
before. This is just to replace old equipment that works more efficiently. That's what
Okay, I just want to make sure that, you know, if both rescues are out of town and somebody else has a problem, they're going to get the same care that they would if the rescues were here. That's all I want to make sure of.
There you go. And just to, Council Perry, you use the word defibrillator. This is not.
No, it's not. Right.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
all right.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to go over this now. So the total amount approved that will be approved for the capital reserve fund will now be $419,500 for the following: $90,000 for DPW used plow and attachments, $100,000, and it's not. It'll change, $100,000 for the recycle center, $165,000 for police vehicles, which we are going to get reimbursed some of this amount, $8,500 for the harbor master trailer, $10,000 for waterfront infrastructure, $16,000 for town farm security system, and $30,000 for 2 Lucas chest compressors. Everybody follow that?
Yep.
Any discussions? Okay, so I need a motion to
I
take,
have one question.
yes,
Did we find out if we can put, not that it makes a huge difference, but it does kind of, if we can put that rebate from the police cars into the capital fund, or does it have to go into the general fund?
So I did not find out, but my understanding is that wherever we get the money from is where the money goes back to.
right, and I asked Denise, and I think, well, let me say, I think I asked Denise, I put it on my sheet, but I'm not sure, because I talked to Denise a lot, but I'm sure I'm gonna be talking to Denise tomorrow again, and I'll ask her that question. I know it was on my list, but whether I asked it, I'm not sure. Either way, it'll either go, we will get it back.
I know we'll get it back. It would just be nice to be put back in the capital fund.
I think Chris is right, and I think we've done this before, wherever it comes out of, it goes into with the grants, but.
That's good. Because it took a while to build that fund, so it would be nice to go back in there.
Okay, so if that's okay, I need a motion to approve from the capital reserve fund $419,500 for the following that I listed.
So
moved.
Second.
Well, I think Bill and Deb both made the motion, so I'll give it to Bill and Deb will second. How's that?
Good.
High five, Bill.
Did I go? See, I keep going. Something weird. Counselor Burke?
Yes.
Counselor Cook?
I had one question. The recycle center, what was that going to be? Now?
Originally, we had posted at 225, plus we're gonna use some monies from the industrial park infrastructure fund for the, I believe there's another 180 or 100. I think, well, we said we'd use that. But then, so instead of putting the truck on with part of it coming out of the municipal capital fund at 100,000, Denise suggested that we take the 100,000 and apply it towards the recycling center and then fund the truck by a vote of the taxpayers at the FTR. So the truck doesn't have any municipal capital applying against it.
All right, so what does the recycle center come to now?
So it will be 125, I believe, on the docket,
It'll be 125 on the docket and 100 out of the capital reserve.
of the municipal capital fund. So it's 225 back to where it was. And then there's also some monies that we'll be using from the industrial park infrastructure fund as well.
All right, because it's just that I'm looking at this paper and it's already there, as if.
Are you on 217 or 24?
Well, I think we put it, I think Chris fixed it.
I did on 217. So if you go up above the department head request, there's a date there.
Yeah, it says 217.
So,
Right.
so,
That's
it,
yeah.
so it does say 125 on the
Yeah.
recycling center.
Yeah,
Okay.
he fixed it. He fixed it because I thought you would all agree. I wanted to show what it would look like.
Oh, I'm just like, wow.
We could move it back, but I just wanted, because this is gonna go to the budget committee, so.
All right, that's what was throwing me. I'm like, wow, it's already here and we're talking about it now. I can't.
We moved back very easily.
I'm like, what happened? All right, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Council Edwards,
Yes.
Council Vieira,
Yes.
Council Janick,
Yes.
who did I forget? Council Perry,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Now, before we finish budget, we're gonna need one more meeting to approve the entire budget, but we also have page 4 on our budget that we haven't even touched.
Page 4.
No, no, it's not page 4. I'm sorry, everybody. It's, I don't know why I'm saying page 4. I wrote page 4, but it's not page 4. Page 7. I don't think we did tax sale, did we?
Nope.
No.
And then insurances, we haven't talked about.
No.
Audit of the town accounts, we haven't talked about. Pension plans, we haven't talked about. OPEB, all the way down this list.
Right.
And the other thing we have not touched is town sergeant. And I'm not sure, I don't think we touched the border canvases. Okay, so it's about 10 items, but they're not like
Okay.
complicated items.
Well, then you also have revenue items too that
And
we
we
haven't.
also have revenue, so we're gonna need another meeting. March 3rd is the deadline right now, but it's gonna come up on the agenda, something else, but I was thinking, do you want to do a Saturday or do you want to do next Tuesday? Next Tuesday is March 2nd, so we'll have to get it done next Tuesday. I don't know if you want to meet another Saturday, that's my question, or if we'd rather meet Tuesday night. I can't meet Monday night, I'm on call all night.
All right,
Is
I don't know,
10:30 okay?
Saturday's okay, 9 o'clock.
Saturday is okay with me and we can get it over with, but.
But if we want to make
Probably.
sure Joe can join us, so.
Yeah,
How
so
late, how late do we
10:30.
need to go, Joe?
10:30.
10:30 is the earliest I can make it.
Okay,
we could do it like 10:30 to 12. We'd probably be done.
probably.
Yeah, it'll be like last time. The only thing is, I'm not quite sure we're gonna have the revenue numbers, but
Why not?
we never do. So, but we're gonna talk about that. Anyway,
Revenue's always a swag.
so Saturday at 10:30, we're gonna meet again, guys. And that's,
What's the date, 26th or something?
yeah,
what
I
is
have
it?
it right here,
27.
27th. I have a nail appointment, but I'll cancel it for Joe.
Yep.
I'm good at nails. I got a hammer.
Me too.
I could go over and maybe Brenda could do it.
I
All
do them
right.
all the time. I do my wife's with my hammer all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, so right now it's Saturday at 10:30. Mike, is that all right with you?
Have to be.
Yeah, I know Saturdays are tough for you.
No, well, try to spend time with my in-laws.
I know. Well, it'll be the last
Hmm?
Saturday. Joan,
Mike, if we went later, would that help you?
No, Joe, it's, my in-laws need a lot of attention.
Okay. Okay.
Joan,
Just to make sure we cover everything, you'll need a motion to change the recycling from 225 to 125.
We just did. Oh, no. I know what you're saying. And what I plan on doing is so put all the ones that I said and then put final vote of the budget. Final vote of capital and final vote of the entire budget, because everything we've done is preliminary. So,
Okay.
and then at that point, Chris can tell us what we're up, what our number is actually up to. He can probably give us a good idea right now and what the tax increase would be so that we could think about if we wanted to do something different. So that's what we'll put. It'll be the final vote on Saturday. Because it has.
Madam President,
Yes.
what is our goal this year? Do we have a goal? I know a couple of years ago, we had a 2.1.
No, we
What
haven't
is-
talked about a goal, Joe,
Okay.
at all.
All right, okay.
I think Saturday might be the day that we say, oop, we're too high.
Okay.
And then we can go down, we can take something out if we need to.
Sure.
There's
Okay.
a couple of things that I could suggest to decrease it, but I'm not sure it'll be popular. But it's never
Well,
popular to decrease it.
I'll make my usual suggestion like I do every year, but that'll be later.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna move on. 9E is discussion of potential extending deadline for FY 2022 FTR. And
So,
no, it's not 2022, is it?
yes.
Yes, okay. 2022 FDR and budget deadline submissions in light of uncertainty of state budget and municipal and educational aid. I've had this discussion with Mike and Chris over the last couple of weeks.
So it boils down to the state has still not given us any numbers yet. If we, the last time we did this, the town council had been finished and the school committee had been finished about putting their budgets in as final. And the only committee that was left that had any wherewithal to deal with putting a budget before the taxpayers was the budget committee. And I will say that they worked extremely diligent and very hard to, work with the numbers that we finally did come up with, even though we, got numbers extremely late from the state. But the council and the school committee had already been completed. And I do think it's important that if the council wants to be able to weigh in as to where you're going to be this year, that it might be prudent to leave your ability to act on this budget open. You don't want to, get beyond your close date where you're submitted and you're completed. I don't expect the state to come up with numbers until the very end of March. And we have to turn this thing over to the budget committee. I think it's April 1st.
No, March 3rd.
You have to come up with your final budget by March 3rd.
And then you have a week.
Right, and we have no revenue numbers to work off of.
So, Mike can correct me. They both spoke to me about this, and if you remember from last year, the president has the ability to do this without consulting the council, without a vote from the council.
Right, we're still under executive order, so.
Right, because we're still under executive order. I felt that I wanted your input before I would do anything, and that's why I put it on this agenda. So if the consensus is that you think we should, then I will do it tomorrow or before March 3rd, let's put it that way, so that we can weigh in and change our budget if necessary when the state comes up with the numbers. Now, Chris, you do believe that again this year this is affected by COVID, and
Absolutely.
And that is why these numbers, we have no idea. And keep in mind, this includes what they're going to give for the school state aid also.
Yeah, the state has not projected any aid whatsoever at all this year. And Governor McKee is coming in. God knows, I don't know when. I don't know when Governor Raimondo is going to leave, but Governor McKee is going to have to put together his budget, and it's going to have to get before the legislature. I believe we're going to be in the same boat we were last year with this new stimulus $1.9 billion package being floated out there, that there is a lot of revenue that may come in to help state aid and local aid. We saw that promise last year as well, well into the end of August, that never came to fruition. So it's, you know, we're gonna wind up throwing dots in the dark if we don't have numbers to work off of. And I just don't want to set a budget, and I don't think the council should set a budget until you have better solid ground to stand on. I don't see that this getting into the legislature and the assembly until probably mid-April at the earliest.
Attorney Marcello, you had your hand up.
I'll defer to Mike, and then I'll give you some.
Oh, I'm
some
sorry, I didn't
guidance.
see Mike's. Mike?
That's okay. No, I fully support that we delay the dates. I think it's the only prudent, responsible decision to make at this point. And, you know, I also support that it's your decision. I appreciate you coming to us for our perspectives. I don't think you need our consensus. I don't know if you'll get it, you might. But I think it's important that we do this.
Chris, my question to you is, how long out should I postpone this? Because think of all the problems.
I don't have a crystal ball.
Right, but think of all the problems last time with taxation.
Yes, I don't plan on this year doing like we did last year. I don't believe we will go down the road of having a 1/4 tax and a 3/4 tax. At some point, we are going to have to set a tax and try to get our tax bills out with one time. And, you know, get the 4 quarters out so that we don't wind up in the boat that we were in last year. I am hoping that this does not get as prolonged and protracted as it did last year, but we are clearly sitting, you know, with no information, and it is extremely difficult to put this entire budget together without knowing what state aid's going to be, because whatever the number we pick, we own it.
Right.
Attorney Marcello?
Thank you. So you can call me Mike, by the way, but I appreciate
Mike,
it. But maybe you separate us from Mike Burk. I get it. It's Councilor Burk, Attorney Marcello. I get it.
Yeah, because if I say Mike, he'll give me a legal opinion.
That's all right.
I've seen it before today. All right, go ahead.
So I just want to clarify the power which we're acting under, because we're under a state of emergency at both the local and state level. The chief executive officer last year had the right to move deadlines. And that's what we did. At the time we moved the deadline last year for the financial town meeting, however, as Chris indicated, both the school committee and the town council had already, the deadline for their budget submissions under the charter were passed. So the only body that had the authority to do so was the only time frame that was still left to act on a budget was the budget committee. And if you remember, as the budget committee was acting, the council was sending suggestions to the budget committee of what they should do, not do, whatnot. So it kind of got a little awkward, frankly, but that was the authority. Because of the COVID emergency, we did amend state law to make it very clear that we have the authority to do this. And it's at the chief executive officer of the town or city, which under Tiverton's charter and emergency management plan is the council president. This would be consistent with state law. The only thing different this year is that we would actually, my suggestion would be not only to move the date of the FTR, but to move the dates for which the budget submissions are due, so that everybody's budgets can still be in play. And I think from your perspective, the school department is a huge chunk of your budget, and they're not even close to figuring out how much money they may or may not get from the state. And the other thing that's the $1 million question or the $1,600 question is, if there is a stimulus package passed at the federal level, how much will that trickle down to the states? There's some talk it might directly go to the governor's office for dispersal, or this talk that it may actually be given directly through the states, to the towns, through block grant programs or whatever they decide to do. So that's kind of the battle that's going on. But I just want to assure everybody, including those who are watching, that you absolutely have the authority to do so. And anything that we do would be legal, because we obviously have a charter, but we're also higher than a charter is state law, and that gives us the authority to do what we're doing.
Now, so are we thinking postponing it a month, 2 months? And if we do that, then we'll postpone all the dates.
Yeah, my suggestion is whatever date you want to push out the FTR, then we just kind of back out the dates that, you know, consistent with the charter, like I think it's 66 days before, you know, budget to do, just kind of back out those dates.
All right, so Jay.
Well, as a member of last year's budget committee, and in fact, the chairman, like Mike said, the school committee and the town council got stuck with the budget they presented, and we didn't. The downside, well, there was no downside for us. The good side was that a lot of things that we would not have known until the following year came to light while we were doing our deliberations, such as things like school department insurances. You know, it didn't cost them as much as they thought. And that just carried over into the departments and into the revenue. Personally, I've always thought it a little crazy to have the FTR and the budget decided before the end of our fiscal year, but that's the way it is in the charter, and we had to live with it. This last year, we did not. So we got a good look at things before we actually had to submit it and before we actually had to have a vote on it. So personally, I would want to see that we move the FTR to a point that would give us the end of this fiscal year. You know, we'd see the end of the fiscal year before we had to make submissions.
All right, I have to tell you guys, oh, here you go. I lost you all completely just now. I'm back. All right, does anyone else want to comment? Councilor Janick?
I don't know that I agree with that. I don't want to go into the fiscal year not knowing what we have to spend, you know, what's allocated to us. I mean, I think we need to push it out, and it was good pushing it out, but there was a lot we still didn't know either. And then we have to think about when the FTR is, because right now we do it in May. It's before school ends. It's before people start taking off on vacation. Like, when do you push it to? Like, push it into July, and if things start to open up, people are going to take off. They're not going to be voting. Although I know we can do, you know, early voting and whatnot. I don't want to push it out that as far as we did this year, because we were already like almost into
September.
When did we vote? We were September. We were like already, you know, a whole quarter in. But.
Well, I was thinking, just to be honest with you, I was just thinking a month or a month and a half push out, but I'm not sure if we'll have, well, we'll probably have a lot by the end of June, better idea of what we have now.
Yeah.
And I agree with everybody. The FTR, it's very difficult to do this budget when we don't have everything in, and that's per charter though. So we'd have to change that in the charter. Donna?
Well, what happened the last time was that within an executive order, it was determined that depending on when the state came up with a budget, we would then have 65 days to do our FTR and have people vote. Unfortunately, the state never came up with a budget, and the election came and went, and they still didn't have a budget. I don't think they even had one in December, if I'm correct. So it was just all of a sudden, didn't we vote in September? And then because we had to send out the tax bills, and we still didn't have the numbers. So I don't know how that works out. We were waiting for the numbers. We still didn't get the numbers. The state didn't do the budget,
but I think we had some idea. We had a better idea.
So
Mike.
The reason why we went to September is because there was a law passed that allowed the cities and towns in the situation to do the 1 quarter taxes that we did. So we would at least be able to figure out, we would have the revenue based upon last year's budget. So we were able to send out a tax bill based upon the appropriations made from the previous year. That was a law that was passed at the interim. And that gave us the authority to do so. That's why, because you're right, we did initially indicate that it was going to be 65 days after the state budget, but by September, it was pretty clear to everybody that the state was not coming back with a budget. And actually, I think, Donna, you're right, they didn't come back till December or January, and we needed the revenue at that time because we were running short. So that's what we did. That's why Chris had to do the 1 quarter, 3/4 thing. But the first quarter tax bill, if you recall, was based upon last year's expenditures, not any new expenditures.
So my question to you and Chris, Mike, is are we going to have better idea this year than we had last year? Last year was an odd year. Do we foresee that this year, and I know that's weird, but
No.
Chris is on these calls more than I am. I can tell you, having served in the legislature, the budget's always a difficult year. It's even more difficult this year. I have a good, here's the real thing. It's not really necessarily the budget process. It really, we don't really know who our governor is right now. We don't have somebody who's running the show because I don't know if Governor McKee, Lieutenant Governor Kami, when he takes over, is he going to start from scratch and put together a whole new state budget, or is he going to rely upon what the outgoing governor has left him, which I guess according to press reports is not that much of a budget. So it is even more uncertain. But I would imagine that there would be more of an effort to get a budget done, under the normal time frame by June 30th. But again, I can't predict because I don't know what's going to happen and I don't know what the revenue shortfalls are. But I know Chris is on these calls weekly, so he might have a better idea.
So Tiverton is not unique to this. There are a number of communities who are in the same boat that we are, and we have all been asking these questions of the governor's executive staff about, where we should be and what we should be doing and what these numbers are going to look like and what these projections are. And they fully understand the issue of us picking a number for the, for a school budget. And I'm not picking on schools, or libraries, but once we pick them, we own them. And it is very difficult to do that when you don't know the information that's coming. And, and I feel bad for the schools too, because they've got the same issue of trying to put their budget together. So I would like to leave the door open for both the town council and the school department. And we can do this under the laws that are in existence. We are still under an emergency. And I do know that there are a number of questions from one member in the chat room asking.
Yeah, well, I'm not taking questions.
Okay, but I just want to make it clear though, this is a legal maneuver that is authorized by law. And if we did get into the next fiscal year, there's another state law that permits us to continue our budget on the existing planes that we're on. I would do the same thing I did this past year. I would freeze all capital spending. We would not spend a dime until we had a budget in place.
Well,
That's the only way we'd be able to operate. So all departments would still be able to function, and we would, spend as little money as possible until we had a budget in place.
Right, but that doesn't mean we couldn't take from the capital reserve because.
No, you can still do all that. All that you can still do. That's not an issue. The issue is, somebody made comment of, I don't know how we would operate into a new fiscal year. There is a state law that permits us to continue on with an existing appropriation. The issue is going to boil down to very similar to last year, and that's why we went ahead and had an FTR in September. It boils down to cash flow. How long can we survive before we have to get a tax bill out the door? Now, I don't want to wait till September. I really don't. But we need information in order to complete our budget picture. We are not the only community in the state having this issue. And
the only reason, I'm sorry, Council President, I didn't mean to interrupt. The real issue is, again, the legal, we're clear on the law, that we've been granted the law's been amended, so I'm not even going to get into an argument whether it's legal or not. It is legal. I'm your solicitor. I'm telling you what we're doing is legal and authorized. However, the main question that we're trying to do is preserve the ability of this town council, the school committee, to actually have a say in what their proposed budget looks like before the March 3rd deadline. Because I would take the position that if the March 3rd deadline comes and goes, you will be frozen out of the process because that's the budget that you submitted. So that's what I'm asking.
So for now, if I decided to go until June 27th, which is only a month out, I can always change that also.
That's correct.
So I can see how things go for now, which brings all the dates back appropriately. And it'll give us some sort of idea when Governor McGee gets on, we may have some idea of what his plans are. And we'll have a better idea. Yes, Mike. You're on mute.
Mr. Burke might have a question. I want to.
Oh, no, it's just when you're on mute.
So what my suggestion is that you set the date for the new FDR, and in the executive order, we'll reset the dates based upon that date of when the school committee has to submit their budget, when the town council has to submit the budget, when the budget committee has to submit the budget, and then when the what am I missing? The budget committee submits their budget. So yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking maybe that month will give us a better idea. I don't want to go too, like Donna brought up, we went way back and it didn't really matter. But if we waited another month and see what's happening up at the state, we can say, well, we're just going to do it anyway, or we can reconsider and move it back if we need to. And we can watch to see what the other towns are doing also. Now, Councilor Edwards, Councilor Vieira, do you want to give your opinion on this?
Okay with moving it back a month and giving us some leeway as to the deadline and anything else. I saw what you guys went through last year, and if this is shaping up to be somewhat of whatever happened last year, I don't have a problem with moving the deadline.
Councilor Perry?
Yeah, I don't have a problem moving it either.
Now, the only thing is, if we move everything back a month, our proposal will be due by April 3rd. I don't know if we'll have an answer by then. That's the thing.
So move it more.
Councilor Edwards?
Well, just so everybody's clear though, once we set a new FTR date and then that drives when, documents have to be submitted. Once they're submitted, particularly for the school department and for us, that's it. So, we have to pay very close attention to the dates.
Well, like I said, if we're not getting an answer, I can always move it back again.
I will say that
I could go 2 months if you guys, yes.
I'm sorry. So if anybody besides me thought that we wanted to wait until after the June 3rd date, when the state's supposed to have presented a budget, that would put the FTR somewhere around July 17th. I don't know if you want to go that far or even think about going that far, but it's certainly not September. It's just a thought.
Chris, what do you think? We should do it in July?
I would suggest you move it to the June 27th date. I know that pushes us up against April, but we would then still be able to see what happens from Governor McKee in the state legislature to see how they're working through that process. And it still gives you ample time to move it back to July 17th or the date that Councilor Edwards had just suggested. That, so you would have 2 bites at the apple. I would like to get this done as quickly as possible. And I think everybody would like to, but we're going to have to see how this legislature moves and how the budget process moves through the state legislature.
All right, so like I said, I don't need a vote, but I didn't want to do it without talking to all of you and getting some kind of general consensus. So, did anyone else want to say anything else? Mike?
Yes, that I appreciate that you brought this to our attention and sought our input. And it's not an easy decision to make. But I do think, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's the only prudent decision to make at this point.
Anyone else on the council? I'm not taking questions from the audience because I did this just so I could get my head on straight with what all of you want. And I think that's important. So that's why I asked you, Bill.
I think we owe it to the citizens to have these numbers as accurate, as reasonable as possible. We don't know if the budget will face an alternate budget. So I think we owe it to everyone here in town to make these numbers as realistic as possible. So if we need another month, then so be it.
All right, so I'll, if Mike, you want to draw, I'm sure I have to sign some executive order, correct?
Yeah, well, I'll talk to Chris and you, we'll figure out what date you think is best, and we'll,
So what
you know,
date?
whatever
do
date you
think
pick,
the
we'll figure
council
out
has
the
to
dates
be
from
done
that.
by? What current date does the council have to be done by? March 2nd?
March 3rd.
March 3rd.
Third.
So the executive order has to be entered before the March 3rd date, that's all.
Right.
So what I'm asking everyone, in light of that, would you like to hold off the meeting on Saturday?
Yes.
Because we do have a little bit of time, and Chris can get more numbers, and we'll have more accurate information, and maybe the revenue will be closer than it is today. So so that's why I said that I was making that, but that might not happen. So and I'll be able to go to my nail appointment, which will be
I was gonna have my hammer anyway.
And we'll be
No,
helping
I
the
mean-
school committee and the budget committee too.
Excuse me?
We'll be helping the school committee
Yeah.
and the budget committee at the same
Right,
time.
and once I sign, I will send a copy to both the budget committee and the school committee. And I know that the budget committee, I know there's some members watching, so they'll have some idea of what I'm doing. All right, well, thank you all for your input. It did help. I just felt that unilaterally, I'd rather not make this decision without some kind of input. So thank you.
Thank you.
No meeting Saturday.
No meeting on Saturday. We'll take Saturday off and probably.
Good. Good,
I
I
was
can go to
counting
Disney.
on it.
What?
Good, I can go to Disney.
Yeah, and Mike's in-laws will be so happy because he can spend the day over there. All right, so 9F, approval of town planner salary increase per contract provision.
So this got by me. I do apologize for this, but I should have gotten, the council did ratify this contract, and I just assumed that when her probationary period was over, she would be entitled to the salary increases delineated in the contract, which went from 86 to 87,000. So I would, she passed her probation with flying colors. I mean, I didn't give you an evaluation on it, but it's, believe me, we're getting every cent we're getting out of her. She's an excellent employee and has done a great job. So I just assumed that took place because it was already ratified in the contract. We have not given her that money yet, and I would make it retroactive to that date. I just wanted to run it by the council first.
I don't think you need our vote because it was in the right, Mike? Okay.
Okay.
The only time that it's been in the contract that has been a problem when the town administrators come to us and said the job's not being done well and we need to reconsider. So, and
right.
that is not what you're doing. So,
Okay. No, well, I just wanted to make sure I at least covered my bases that, she, like I said, she's an excellent employee, has done an excellent job, and she has passed probation with flying colors. So,
thank you.
all right.
All right, announcements, town administrator.
So,
Update on COVID.
So, yeah, everything's been COVID lately. So I will say, I do have to give accolades to both Chief Reimels, Chief Jones, and I would also like to extend a thanks to Little Compton's Chief Petrin and the town council down there as well for helping us put together this regional, small regional, just Little Compton and Tiverton, of doing our 75 and older. I will say it's been a very daunting task to go through this process, but I can tell you of the number of people who got vaccinated here in Tiverton locally, they are extremely grateful for the services that we've been providing for them. And I would, while they are, many of them are fairly feeble, and I've never seen so many walkers in my life, but they, I can truly appreciate trying to provide this service here in town.
So how many
shots? I'm not trying to belittle them or make jokes of this. I mean, these people really don't belong going to the Dunkin' Donuts Center or anywhere outside of town. And we will continue doing this for as long as the state will let us, but the state let me know clear and loud today. And I just want anybody who's watching and listening that we will not be doing anybody under the age 75. They were pretty clear and adamant about it, that they will be going back to regional services. They did ask if we would contribute towards that. I did offer that we may consider that once we're done with our 8-week vaccination program, because it is a lot to ask of our staff to be doing this every week for 8 weeks and trying to do regional pods at 2 days a week as well. It's taxing to us. And while we would get reimbursed for it, it's still a lot to ask the staff and the volunteers. So we're doing everything we can to take care of the population that we have here in Little Compton for the most extreme elderly people that we have. And I can't say enough about the staff that we have that have been working very hard to do this. So that's where that stands. Anybody who did get a shot last week in the next 3 weeks will get a second shot, will be automatically scheduled, that we've taken care of that. So that's where we stand with vaccinating in town. I know that's not what everybody wants to hear, but it's the best that we can do at the moment.
So how many shots have we given so far?
I think last week we gave altogether, Bruce can correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was just about 190 or 200. And this coming week, I think we're somewhere around 325. Bruce?
Yeah, so 195 this past Thursday. We have scheduled for this coming Thursday, 320.
Now that's a combination of both towns, but
That's correct. Yep.
And we're still giving the first shot.
correct. For the first 4 weeks is the first shot.
Okay.
Right.
So people, people are still asking me at the grocery store, how did they register for this?
So anybody under 75 really needs to go on the state site.
No, above 75.
Above 75, they can go to the EMA website that we just had built and published. It's Tiverton COVID-19 at, what is that, Bruce?
.com, correct.
.com. Or we do have a phone number that we use as well, correct?
Yeah.
I don't know what that number is off the top of my head. Or they can call town hall. Any of the calls that people have been doing, we can, most of us have been registering people into our registry that don't have internet access. So they can call the town hall, they can call the senior center, they can call the fire department. And we can, we'll put them in the registry for that.
And so we're really only doing it for 4 weeks, because then the 4 weeks later are people we've already vaccinated. And
So we give them the first shot each, like last week we did those.
First shot.
4 weeks later, they come back and they get their
Yeah.
second shot.
Well, what I'm saying is we're only doing the first shot for 4 weeks.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, Joe, you're waving.
Yeah, question I have is, it was announced that starting today, people 65 could apply the shot. Is that not true?
No, they can get a shot, but they have to go on the vaccinateri.com. So they will get a shot at the Dunkin' Donuts Center, Crossroads, or one of the 5 regional sites the state will announce hopefully this week.
So it won't be done in Tiverton,
It
Joe.
will not be done locally
Okay.
here in town.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Mike?
Madam President, 2 things. One, I also want to commend the chiefs and everybody else who was involved. I got a call from my neighbor in his 90s, he and his wife, and they had kudos left and right for how easy it was to get the appointment, how easy it was and quick it was to get through. And so thank you all for that. And, Chris, I don't think it's Crossroads for that state site. It's Sakanasset Crossing.
I thought it was Sakanasset Crossroads. Or is that just the road?
No, that's the road. It's down by the training school.
Okay.
It's where the old Citizens Bank Ball Center used to be.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Anyone else? All right, well, thank you, Bruce and Chris and Mary Lou, because let me tell you, Mary Lou's job has become talking about COVID all day long, and everyone else at the town hall who has helped. And thank you
We
very
would
much.
definitely be remiss if we didn't mention Judy. She's been the.
Oh, yeah, and Judy too. I'm
And
sorry
Judy.
if I forget anybody else, tell me.
Yeah.
And also, Bruce, like I had said before, if you need my help, I'm available too. So you can give me a call too. All right.
You good. Appreciate it.
Because I could work down there. I am a nurse.
Yeah,
So,
very good.
All right,
Thank
anyone else? All right, let's go on. Town clerk, update on March 2nd, 2021 special referendum.
Not much change to report. Emergency ballots are still continue through March 1st until 4 o'clock that day. We have 57 emergency ballots that have been cast so far. The special referendum, again, is on March 2nd, and they can vote at either VFW or at Amicable Church. And that's it.
Thank you. Solicitor Marcello, case 20-1473, William C. McLaughlin, Deborah McLaughlin v. Town of Tiverton, report on opinion and judgment from the U.S. Court of Appeals.
Yeah, so I think the town clerk included the judgment and decision from the U.S. Court of Appeals in your packet. This was the case where the town was sued for the alleged violation of due process when they took down Mr. McLaughlin's garage. We had a successful summary judgment in the district court here in Rhode Island, which was then appealed to the First Circuit Court of Appeals in Boston. The Boston court upheld the decision of the lower court, basically finding in favor of the town. If he does have a right to appeal to the Supreme Court, if he wants to, it's not a right, it's by certiorari, so the Supreme Court would have to agree to grant the case, which is very unlikely. So I think this case is technically now, or will be technically over within 30 days of the final judgment being entered. And the town did not have to pay any type of damages or it had a significant exposure if we had lost, but we won, and the case is now over officially, again, pending a discretionary appeal to the Supreme Court.
Thank you. Any questions? Open meeting. What?
So no legal fees.
No legal fees.
There you
This
go.
was handled by the
Like that.
this was handled by the Rhode Island Interlocal Trusts.
All right.
Not by me.
And item 10D is to remind everybody of the Open Meeting Act Tiverton seminar for February 24th, 2021. And
So we
that's-
did send out the Zoom information today. I did speak to Andrew. We will get that on YouTube Live as well, just so that those who don't make the meeting, there'll be a record of it so that they can at least view it later. And it shouldn't, I think Michael will have a very short presentation similar to what he's done for the Budget Committee already. It won't take very long to go through it, but it's.
Yeah, I'm anticipating maybe like 20-minute presentation and then maybe questions if people have questions.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there might be some questions. Now, this
What
is.
time is that?
7 o'clock.
7 p.m. It's actually it's noticed as a work session of the council, I believe, right, Madam Clerk? Yeah.
So I did put a slight agenda on that, just mentioning there was open meetings and access to public documents. I wasn't sure how far you would go on either one, but it
All
is.
right,
what it
so this is a meeting that I have to open,
Yes, ma'am.
so I'll need a quorum.
Yes.
Okay, guys, so if the 3 of you can join me, I'd appreciate it.
Join you.
So, Madam President, there's one item that didn't make the agenda. I just want to make to the council at least, that we did do the interviews for the assistant solicitor. I don't know how I missed it, not getting on the agenda, but you know, I'll send you all a written document on where we are with that, and hopefully at your next meeting, we can make that appointment.
Okay. Anything else?
No,
Okay.
motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, show of hands.
Aye.
Thank you.